Okay, we're starting our meeting. First of all, I want to welcome everybody to the meeting. We've got a great clinic today put on by Duane, our fabulous AP chairman and MMR. As always, the Cowcatcher Division would like to thank the Texas Western for letting us meet here. And David, do you have any announcements?
I do, thank you. Good morning and welcome to the Texas Western. Anybody here for the first time? You're going to have to stay after school. Okay. Big thing. In all the chairs, I put an announcement about our gigantic garage sale. We do 2 garage sales a year. So this is a big deal. Now, you might be saying, why is this gigantic? We have more stuff to put out. Even after the show, we have more stuff to put out than ever. One of the things of interest in our structure room, we have a lot of bridges and buildings like depots, different things that are not going to go on our phase 2 and our phase 3 of our layout. Phase 2 and phase 3 is down the road. So we've determined that there's structures that we're not going to use. Quality craftsman built kits that I think you would really love to take a look at. If you've got a layout at home or another club layout you go to and work to, come and check these out. These have never been offered before. This is a first. So it's on the 25th and 26th of October in conjunction with the prototype modelers over at the convention center just over on Wichita. We decided to have it coincide on those dates because those guys and ladies always come to that convention and they always come over here to see what's going on with the layout. So we thought, hey, let's have a garage sale because they're going to come here anyway and they might be able to find some really good stuff. So don't forget that. If you want to take a picture of this and post it on your social media, that would be great. Tell your friends, neighbors, club members that you associate with, and any of the other clubs that you're involved with. Tell them about this. This is a big deal. And if you've ever come to one of our garage sales in the past, you know that we don't price stuff expensive. Everything is really, really reasonable, if not dirt cheap. And I always say, no unreasonable offer will be refused. So please come. Number 2. You'll notice that the shade that we have sitting over here is now in a crate. As soon as Daryl and I finish the crate for the flat car, this stuff will be ready to ship to the customer that bought it, who is in Toronto, Canada.
Wow.
Yes. So if you can imagine 650 pounds in one box and about 250 in the other box, he's got some pretty hefty freight to pay to get those things up there. But he don't care. He just wants that locomotive in the flat car. So what this is coming to, if you remember, it's set on a frame that had casters on it. On the top of that frame was a rail that the locomotive sat on. He wanted that piece, but he did not want the undercarriage with the casters. He said, I don't need it. So Daryl took his grinder with his cutoff wheel and cut off that frame that the locomotive sat on, and we're shipping it back with a flat car. What is left is that base. The base with casters and some arms that come up like this. If you use your imagination and you have a little fabricating skill or know that somebody that does, it would make a great base for a barbecue grill or a barbecue pit. So it is free, F-R-E-E. It's parked under one of the work tables. If you're interested, take it today. It's yours. Or if you want it but don't have a way to get it out of here today, if you'll just let Daryl or me know that you want it, we'll tag it, put your name on it, and you can pick it up whenever you get transportation. Daryl, did I say that it was free?
I think it is, but it is free.
It's free.
We'll help you load.
No cost. Just get it out of here. Sir?
How much is it?
It's free.
Free, okay.
F-R-E-E. Now, if nobody from, we've already offered it to our members, nobody in the Texas Western wanted it. If you don't want it, it will find its way out here, and we'll put a free sign on it, and somebody will snatch it up and make scrap metal out of it. Daryl, your turn.
The buyer in Toronto is, pretty heavy. He's restored 2 full-size steam tractors. Great big steam engine tractors, and he scratch built a 3rd scale steam tractor. So, I talked to him the other day, he's ordered a 1,000-foot extractor, start laying tractors in.
So
Okay.
we're excited to have you here today. Don't forget to look around the layout, and Dick, it's back to you.
Okay, thank you, David. Do we have any new members or visitors to the club today? James? Is that, you want to stand up and tell us about yourself and your layout?
No.
No? You sure?
He's my helper today.
He's your helper? Does he have a model railroad layout?
Hopefully we will
Okay.
have a day.
Well, hey, James, welcome to the meeting. Hope you enjoy it. And are you going to build is he going to work on the clinic with you? Okay, buddy, good. Okay, and who do we have on Zoom? Okay, Don Hummel, Paul Cleveland, and Robert Magnum, welcome. And Robert is our new whistle editor, and great job, Robert, getting the whistle out on time, and appreciate all you do on this. Okay. Although Eric Smith isn't here, I want to give him a big thank you for his clinic last week or last month. And I'd also like to thank David Grine, who did a great job of subbing for me while I was out of town. In fact, I was eating a great dinner and drinking some great wine in Italy, in Rome, about 8 o'clock at night. And I realized the meeting was starting at 10, and I was very sympathetic to all you guys. But thank you, David, for your help. And you want to give a treasury report, David?
Check. Couple of things before I tell you how much money we have. In spite of the money we have, the donuts and coffee and beverages are not free. So please contribute. Appreciate it very much. I am collecting for the clinic today, so if you owe money for the clinic or for the build, please come and pay me. I'm right here, not going anywhere. Just bring me your money. And the opening balance in September was $23.81. We had receipts of $602, expenditures of $199, and ending balance of $27.83. And our certificate of deposit is currently valued at $22,435.
Okay.
I'm done.
Thank you, David. Okay, Chris Mahan was supposed to give a wrap-up discussion on the Pay It Forward module, but Russell, I'm understanding you have the information?
Yeah, Pay It Forward.
Yeah, the Pay It Forward module.
Well, we had a really, really good turnout for the Pay It Forward. We sold $625 in raffle tickets. Can you hear me now better?
Yes.
We sold $625 in raffle tickets. I want to thank everybody that helped on this. This was a big group effort, not only in the build, but also during the day of the show. Mal here was our carnival marker, did a heck of a job on Saturday, pulling a lot of people in the booth. We really appreciate it. The winner was picked by last year's winner, and Robert Seacrest here actually won the layout. He been a member of the NMRA for a while, but didn't have a layout. Now he does. Now he's got no excuse. And like I told him, Ben, you want it, you now have to come here for the next 3 years for every meeting.
That was in the fine print, right?
Yeah, you did read the print. Anyway, it was a great turnout. I appreciate everybody's help. It was a lot of work, but it was well worth it. It brought a lot of attention to the booth. We signed up, a lot of people got signed up in membership as well. So good job, everybody.
Okay, a couple of upcoming events. As David Crumpton had mentioned, the Red River RPM meeting is coming up on October 25th and 26th. Make sure you get that on your calendar. And that's at the Forest Hills Civic Center, which is 1 block over on Wichita. He mentioned the Texas Western Garage Sale. In addition to that, there's a new Bronzefield train show coming up on October 26th and 27th. And there's a Houston show coming up. There's a show in Louisiana coming up on the 28th. Excuse me, on November 2nd. And an Oklahoma City show coming up on November 2nd and 3rd in Oak City. And of course, the Houston show is coming up on the 16th and 17th of November. So check the website for details on that, and you can get more information on that. We've got a number of other announcements. Mike, you want to talk about 4014 first?
If you don't mind. Your microphone's going in and out. It's out. Yeah, currently out.
It's currently out.
Now it's back on. It's like a battery or something, but anyway. First off, for everybody who has volunteered for working on 4014, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We do have some room for some other folks that if you'd like to raise your hand and go ahead and be a part of that again, or for the first time. The display is going to be at the TNP station on Thursday and Friday. Saturday is Family Days at Davison Yard, just adjacent to the diesel facility and the engine shops right there. And we are going to be meeting, just to go over some of the fine points, we're going to be meeting at the original Pancake House on University on every morning at 6:45, all 3 days. At which point we will carpool over to whichever location we're going to. Thursday and Friday to downtown to the parking for the TNP station. We've got specific parking. We've got specific parking passes that we're going to be passing out to the appropriate cars that are going over there. We've got liability release forms that we have to sign and turn in, but we don't sign them until we're in front of a certified Union Pacific employee who is receiving them. They have to be countersigned and they have to witness our signature. So I'm going to pass these out the morning of when we gather and get ready for our briefing. There are 2 of them. There's a liability release. This is a permit to enter the property that they sign, giving us the permission to enter Union Pacific property. We will be there, and the Union Pacific security is already working with me privately and in addition to the meetings that we're having. Several of you were on the Zoom call that we had this past week. I thought that went very well. It was recorded. If you did not attend that meeting and did not see the Zoom call, it is recorded, and if you contact me, then I can let you watch it again or watch it for the first time and send you an email with a link to it. Someone logged into the meeting about an hour early, so it started the recording like 54 minutes before the meeting was supposed to actually start. So if you're going to watch it, fast forward ahead until the meeting actually starts, and then you can go and you can watch it. Just about all the details are covered there. I have a site location that we've got here a map that we're going to be going over. They also sent us, and I will be sending this out to everybody, a fast facts sheet that talks about everything big boy related. It's 17 feet tall. It's 1.2 million pounds. X number of pounds of pressure, all these different things that are the quick facts and general questions, FAQs that those people normally come up with. I am working right now to finalize the assignment sheets, and we'll be going over those when we have our briefing. There's really no need for us to worry about that ahead of time because at the last minute, something could change. And we're there to help them do whatever they ask. I have put specific assignments of physicians to work with our ADA receiving. I thought that would be a good parallel there, so that if there's any question or problem with anybody who's needs assistance in the ADA receiving, there are physicians there that'll work with them accordingly. So that's the only thing that is specific. Everything else is going to be transient, and we'll be able to move in and out. There will be lunch served for everyone who works a full day shift. A full day shift is going to be from the time we get there until probably about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, except for myself and a couple other people who have to come back on Thursday night for a VIP reception, and we've got to meet the people and handle the VIP reception. So that runs from 5 to 7, and we'll have to meet that. But that's a different category, and you guys don't have to worry about it. But we do have a few more slots available and needed to be filled on Thursday and Friday. Saturday is pretty much taken care of. That's family days. And I want to stress this, if you are working family days and you are not there at the appropriate time, you will not be given admittance. There will be no late arrivals for volunteers. From the time when we get there and we go inside the perimeter of the secured area, no one gets in after that except people who have a Union Pacific employee badge and their families that are accompanying them at that time. We cannot bring any visitors with us for family days. It is going to be extremely crowded. Last year we had about 300 people. This year they've already got RSVPs from 1,700.
Whoa.
So, and they're locking it down. Because 4014's here, Fort Worth Police are setting up a perimeter, and there will be no admittance other than with an employee badge. So I'm just giving you that heads up right there. Also, it will be the only time that during the visit that the Union Pacific Experience car is open. And we will have access to that. Now, if anybody's worked family days last time, it's a very relaxed atmosphere. We come in, we help them pass out swag and greeting bags and stuff like that. We all get one. Everybody gets a greeting bag and Union Pacific swag and stuff as a volunteer. They've got T-shirts for the volunteers to wear and to keep. And most of the time, we will have a shift work in the parking lot. But other than that, if you are not working a particular job, you're free to just kind of roam around, sit down, listen to music, eat all the food you can eat, plus some. And because it's a catered barbecue, and it's just a very relaxed atmosphere. And then at the very end of the day, we break down the tables and chairs, stack them up, and go home and have a nice day. And it'll be over with about 3 in the afternoon. So if you have any other questions, contact me offline. If there's anybody that wants to volunteer, I'm going to be in the back of the room. Come see me. I'll put your name down, get some information, and we'll add you to the correspondence list. As I get more information this week for those who have already volunteered, I will be sending out more information. Jenny Bartholomew, who is our first level contact at Union Pacific, is coming in on Monday. The locomotive doesn't arrive here until Wednesday, but it's coming in Wednesday evening, unannounced. And it will be stored at Davison Yard over there. And then moved into position Thursday morning. It will leave Thursday, it will leave the TMP platform Thursday afternoon, go back to Davison Yard. It will be repositioned Friday morning and then leave on Friday afternoon at the appropriate time. There will be no early admittance for the general public prior to the time that it's supposed to be at 9 o'clock. They're talking about having a soft opening at 8:30. We will, this year, we've already got a time scheduled for when we arrive over there. The very first thing we're going to be doing is having a group photograph with the locomotive, which was not done the last time we were here. So you got to be there early if you want your group photograph. Okay. Is there any questions that anybody has? This is not, and I wanted you guys to know, and why you were sitting in on the Zoom call the other night. This is not a thrown together situation. This is a very organized and well thought out presentation and display for the Union Pacific. I will tell you right now, privately, and I did not say this in front of the group, but security includes Homeland Security, the FBI, Dallas Sheriff's Department, Tarrant County Sheriffs, Fort Worth Police, and Union Pacific Police. This is a big deal, okay? And the Union Pacific's big boy is considered a national treasure, and that's why Homeland Security is there on site, and they go with them everywhere they go. They're not making that public, but that's the situation, okay? Yes, sir.
You got anything else on 4014? You want to move into division AP announcements?
I can do that. Division AP stuff. Congratulations to everybody who has started plowing through some more of the AP program. I know there are several of you who are owing me some paperwork. I know Mr. Ray is already cornered me and told me he's filling out paperwork for several certificates. I know that Mr. Cowles is about to finish up his prototype modeler. How many will that give you? And you got locomotives after that? Okay. So you're on the cusp. Mr. Garfield's on the cusp of getting his MMR. Congratulations to both those guys. Jay Waters owes me paperwork on prototype modeler for the General Motors scene back there. I don't know who else has got stuff that they can turn in. Don't you have something you're coming up with?
I owe you some electrical information.
I thought you did. Okay. So let's wrap some of this stuff up and get it turned in here in the next 30 to 60 days before the end of the year. Where's Mr. Richardson? What are we looking like for the year as far as certificates from the division? Can you give me a thumbnail?
Probably a couple dozen.
And what is that? How does that rank annually across historic times?
I've been doing this for 11 years, and out of my tenure, we had more in July or August than we had the big months than we have in most years.
Sweet. So this is going to be a banner year for us.
Yeah. Right now, we're on pace. It's going to be the best year I've had of my 11, and it'll be about the third or fourth best year the LSR has had in history.
Now, you're talking about globally for the whole region.
Yes.
Okay. What about divisionally?
I don't have the breakdown on that, put to memory, but this is definitely a banner year for D1 for sure.
Sweet. Excellent. Great job, guys. Congratulations. Do you have some certificates to pass out today? Do not. Okay.
Okay. Duane, do you have any other AP announcements for the region? No. Or for the division?
Nope.
Okay.
Put it in the paper. If you got any questions, come see me. Same bitch I tell you every month. It will make you a better modeler, I guarantee it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Okay, so we're moving into question and answers on your layout. Anybody having any problems with something on their layout they need some help with? We got a room full of experts. Okay, no problem. Everything's running great, huh? Okay, we're sure.
As far as you know.
Yes. Last chance. Okay. I tell you what, we're going to take a break right now, and we're going to set the room up for the clinic, and then we're going to start. Hold on. Calm down there, Mr. Steckler. You must have brought something for show and tell, right?
No, I just wanted to.
Okay. So then we're going to start the clinic, and as things start, the paints are drying and things like that, we'll move into tips and tricks, show and tell, and we'll finish up with deal or dud. Okay, so let's take a, David, how long will it take? About 10 minutes to set the room up?
10 minutes.
Okay, we need to take about a 10-minute break, and we'll get the room set up. And we're
Okay.
going to need some help with this.
If you will,
All right. So first things first, I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell you every time we start one of these little projects. Do not work ahead. All right? I'm going to put it blunt. It may sound a bit rude. I don't care if you think you know how to do it. I'm going to be teaching you tips and tricks on how to put it together, when to do what, in what order. This is how I've learned to do it over the years and why I can build this model in roughly an hour if I'm not talking to y'all doing it. So we're talking, this is a quick afternoon build project if you do it the way I do it. So if you would, please do it as we're doing it and not go, well, I know how to paint it, I'll just paint it. I know how to do this, I'll just do that. Wait and let me get through it, okay? All right, so in your kit, you're gonna find you have 2 peaked walls. They have a couple of doors cut in them. For what it's worth, Steele asked that we do if we could do a Katie prototype. So if your door is on the left, it's the Katie prototype. Oddly enough, as luck would have it, if the door is on the right, it's a SP prototype. So it works either way. All the HOs, I believe the doors are on the left. It's only if you get to the bigger scales that I've got them either direction. So for those of you freelancing, we don't care. A handful of you will note, like this piece here, there may be some extra engraving on, partial engraving on one side and then full engraving on the other. The partial engraving goes to the inside. I had a sheet that was in mid-cut when we had a power hiccup at the house and the laser reset. So I just flipped the board over and fortunately it hadn't started cutting anything yet. But some of you may have a few extra lines on the inside than you originally hoped. The other piece is this guy here. This has all your window mullions. It has all the trim. There are small gates on this. This is laser board, and it will not stay in the carrier sheet without there being some gates cut in it. So there are some things in there that are going to hold it in the sheet. All of these parts are particularly fragile, especially if you have the in-scale ones. I am going to take a second and pat myself on the back. If you have not seen one of the in-scale kits and looked at how fine those window mullions are, you might want to take a look. It's absolutely incredible. This stuff cuts down to very, very fine lines. So all of these are scaled off the original drawings. Steele provided an article from the Katy Historical Society that gave me some rough measurements and a handful of photographs, some old slides, which made me have to dig out my slide projector and throw it up on the wall and then take pictures with my cell phone. But at any rate, here's what we're going to be working with. The window in here, if it hasn't already popped out, you can just push it with your thumb and it'll pop the little window opening out, and you can just chuck that. You don't need it. And what we're going to do is you have 2 roof pieces here, and you'll note one is ever so slightly wider than the other. You can see a little lip right here. The idea of that, when you go to put it on the roof, the wider one is going to overlap at the top, and then you'll have your eaves will be the same at the bottom. All right. So first thing we want to do is we want to get to a little bit of painting going on. And I'll show you how I do this. Everything I do, obviously, you guys have heard me preach a lot about weathering, and I like to weather everything. So as I'm painting these guys, I'm not looking at putting a complete coat of paint on it. I'm looking at getting enough paint on it so that it looks old and messed up, okay? So out of your paints, I brought two colors. I brought an off-white and I bought a green for the trim. Typically, things are painted two color, and you'll want a light color and a dark color, and it'll either be painted dark with light trim or painted light with dark trim. The Katie stuff looked like it was about this shade of green. It's about as close as I could get it. It's a light avocado was the color. And for a white, I never use straight white. It's too stark. So I tend to go with an off-white. I like colors like ivory. This one's called light buttermilk. And I picked this particular color up along with a couple of others from Jason Jensen off of YouTube. And it's a really nice color for an off-white. So I'm going to paint this on here now.
I'm a late arriver.
HO?
HO.
HO.
Sorry about that.
Here you go.
Thank you.
You betcha. And I'll be handing out window glass and some roofing material here after a while. Let's see, that brush, there we go. All right, so when I'm painting it, I'm gonna go with a relatively wide brush, and I'm basically gonna dry brush it. Now, you guys have heard me say, in the past, when you're painting this stuff, what you do to one side, you do to all sides. This kit's cut out of plywood, so that's not necessary in a lot of cases. And if you don't get a whole lot of paint on your brush, and you're dry brushing it, you don't have to necessarily paint it on all sides either, because you're not getting the front side very wet. So I got just the very tips of the bristles in the paint, and I'm going to start at the top of the wall, and I'm going to work my way down, and I'm very lightly just kind of flicking the bristles across the top. And I want, anytime I go in to get a little bit more paint, I want to come back in. Now, typically in your dry brushing, you're going to come over here and you're going to wipe off most of the paint. In this, I'm not doing this as a weathering effect. I'm doing this as a general coat of color. So I'm going to start up here at the top. Anytime I go to the cap and get a little bit of paint, and as the paint starts wearing out, I'm going to start working my way down the wall. And I'm not looking for even coverage. That's the last thing I want. I want old, I want peeling paint, I want, wore out. So as I work my way down the wall, you can see I'm being kind of random on how I do it. I'm probably going to get a little more on this. And I want to, anytime I get anything that's real stark, I'm going to come back over it several times and feather that back in. I want it really, really light at the bottom. I want this to look like it's not seen paint in a few years. And I'm looking for, when I go back to stain it here later, I'm going to be looking to really kind of rot the bottom of the walls out a bit. But you want to go side to side when you're painting this. Weathering, we tend to do everything up and down because of, physics and gravity and, little things like that. When I'm doing this, when you're painting a house, you tend to paint the individual boards and you paint them like you sand. You do it with the grain. So that wall there, while it doesn't show up as well in color, or on the camera, I mean, it's pretty lightly painted. So I'm just going to work my way around all four walls. Please do the same. If you've got any questions, let me know. A lot of people, when they start building models, will like to stain all the wood first. And that works for a lot of folks. I'm not a fan. I'm going to come back in and stain it later, and it's going to do two things for me. It's going to tone the raw wood, and it's also going to tone down the paint job. And I'm looking to do both. If you stain the wood first, you really can't come back in and stain it after you've painted it, because everything's going to end up being too dark. At least the raw wood's going to be a lot darker. So if you do stain it first, go with a very, very light color if you're going to come back over it again with other stains. Because otherwise you're just going to muddy the thing up. Okay. So this one here, and again, it's not showing up real well on camera. That helped a little bit. There's a stripe here, there's kind of a stripe here, there's a little stripe up here where it's got a little more white on it. I'm going to touch up the top of this wall a little bit. I think it needs a little more paint. For those of you who have seen me do weathering clinics and things before, you know, I talk about the top of the wall should look newer, the paint should look newer. It's because the eave is there to protect it from the rain and everything else. And it's pretty stark for a building that's sat out in the weather for ages and ages. So it's, I've got some slides that I need to add to my weathering slideshow that it's a barn up in Smithville, Missouri. The top foot or so of it looks like it was painted last week, and the rest of the barn doesn't have a speck of paint left on it. So it's that much protection that eave will give you. Yeah, keep the paintbrush moving. This isn't something, like I say, you're not looking for a complete even coat unless you're just trying to build it like they just built it, you know, recently. And you can work really quick with this when you're doing it this way, because you're not sitting there, you know, painstakingly painting every board. So you can kind of move the paintbrush around a lot and move very quickly. I mean, I'm 3 walls into this already. Yes, sir.
Are you gonna do the green later, or are you only gonna do the white?
Right now I'm doing the white, and then we're going to come back and do the green, and then we'll, while the paint's drying, we'll do the rest of the business meeting. Okay. I did this as a demonstration clinic at the Plano show, and I did it down in Temple for their RPM meet. And I cut these out of just solid basswood. And it's a little bit cheaper to go that route, but I found that little wing right there in the basswood always broke off, and I always had to glue it back together. So I decided I'd whip out some plywood for what we're doing. It'll make for a sturdier kit and a stronger build. I'm also painting inside the frame here. I'll come back in and I'll paint this with a trim color, but I like to hit it with the white or the lighter color here since I'm going white on, you know, green on white. This will kind of help cover up the burn a little bit and help the green kind of match a little better. Since it's such a light color, it has a tendency to ends up looking a little darker when you put it over the burn of the laser material. You want to be real careful when you're putting putting it around the door and the window opening, not to get too much paint in there. Otherwise, the window may not fit. So you want to make it a real thin coat. And I'm going to come back in on this one. I've added a little more paint to it. I thought it was a little too messed up. I might add a little bit more to this one too. But it's dealer's choice, however you want to do it. You can paint it to match however you like. But again, being a narrow gauge guy, we tend to like our stuff pretty filthy. Jeff will attest to this. I've got some models that looks like the paint job's about the only thing holding the building up. Yep, lots of cobwebs. Okay, let's put a little more on this guy too. Now, other than the stains, I'm not going to get into a lot of weathering today. We are trying to get through the clinic, and I know this takes longer for some folks than others. So we'll talk about it a little bit at the end about things you can do to it to weather it up some. But other than the stains, I'm not going to cover too much of it as a live demo. It's figure everybody can play with that one once they get it home. Okay. That gets my lighter color out of the way. brush soaking a little bit. Bring that over there. I'm gonna go to a smaller brush. I found here recently, I like bigger handles on my knives. I like bigger handles on my paint brushes. And it's not that I'm losing any dexterity or anything else. I just find it's more comfortable. I mean, even in my wood shop, I've gone to, if you remember the old big Husky pencils we all used in kindergarten when we were learning how to write, I've gone to pencils that size even in my shop. I just find they're more comfortable to hold. So I found these little lines of, this line of brushes. It's a Master Touch from over at Hobby Lobby. And they sell different rounds and spotters and things like that. This is a 12-aught, but I like it for two reasons. It's the handle's short and it's a little bit bigger. And I've found that as my eyes have worn out, I tend to do a lot of working up here. And when you've got, you know, 1.5 feet long worth of handle on a paintbrush, now you're slapping yourself in the head or you're working around the paintbrush handle. And I found this is yeah, exactly. You poke your eye out, kid. So it's just a comfort thing. I've got several paint brushes I've actually taken and dropped in the miter box and just cut them off, take some sandpaper, go out to the sander and round the end of it over just to have a shorter handle on them. So I'm going to come back in and I'm going to paint the parts, these trim pieces, while they're still in the sheet. Okay? Now, Jeff, what's the number one mistake we see in the contest room with people who build laser cut kits? The edges are never painted. Okay, so number one tip, when you start painting these things, for the love of all that's holy, come back in after you're done and when you pop the parts out and paint the edges. We see that more. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how many times we've gone through there and be looking through buildings, and I'll look at a building or Jeff will look at a building and we'll point it out to the other one and roll our eyes, and we both know it's a laser kit and they didn't paint the edges. It's an easy thing to forget. I mean, because we're doing this painting while it's up here, and your mind just, our mind tells us we're done, but we're not, you know. So again, same kind of principle. Whenever I go straight into the paint, I'm going to the top edges of them. So you've got 4 corner pieces here. You've got 4 of the other edge pieces here, and I put the gate in the bottom edge. Now on these 4 here, it really doesn't matter. It's just a straight piece, okay? But the gates are all down here along this edge. So when you go to cut them out, they'll all be down there. So you did that as an indicator for me to help remind me that up here is the top, and that needs to be a little more green than the rest of it. But like I say, if you're watching me do this, you note I'm not being real particular about, you know, I'm not being real careful with it. I'm not making sure it's an even coat. The only thing I'm doing is making sure I don't have any really hard demarcation lines between, you know, some paint and no paint. So I'm just kind of coming in here and I'm kind of lightly scrubbing it in. I'm going to come back in and probably touch a couple of places up. And I'll show you a good example of where I've got a little too hard of a line right there. See if I can get it up here a little bit closer. You see right here, it's really dark, and then all of a sudden it really falls off, and that's not natural. So I'm going to get just a little bit of paint, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to scrub that back and blend it just a little bit. Railroads kept careful care of only a few things. Anything that was passenger facing, you know, customer facing, or anything that would be in food service. So they tended to keep reefers clean because of food service. They tended to kind of clean at passenger cars, and some railroads were better than that than others. Depots were kept clean, at least in the areas where passengers would be. But for things where the employees worked, trust me, they didn't care. So, you know, if this building got painted when it was built, it might not have seen a coat of paint in decades. Because you had to buy paint for a start, and Lord knows railroads were cheap. And then they would have to pay somebody or take them away from their daily job of moving freight and pay them to paint it. Not going to happen more often than not. So unfortunately, maintenance of way buildings tended to really catch the brunt of the weather and didn't get a lot of maintenance attention. Be very careful when you're painting these window mullions, especially in the smaller scales, HO and N. These things are very, very fine. This laser board is a resin impregnated paper product, so it's actually pretty sturdy all in all. But again, these window mullions are really, really fine, and I would be worried about breaking one off if you put a little too much pressure on it. Okay. Let's look it over and let's see where we are. That'll work, that'll work. That could use a little more paint. Okay, come back in here and hit a few places. I tend to only get the tips of the bristles in the paint. A, it's all I need, and B, it means cleanup goes quicker. Yeah. Yeah, in fact, give me a second. I'll just let you take it with you here. I'm gonna do this. Just take the lid, Lou. If you need more, let me know. All right, this is where I'm going to come back in and I'm going to paint the edges of the window opening green, or your trim color. Oh, there you go. And I'm going to do the same thing with the door. Now, acrylic paints dry really quickly. I know a lot of modelers tend to put a coat of paint on it, let it dry overnight. Yeah, if you want to take 6 months to do a structure that you could do in a few days, then yeah, let it dry overnight. My philosophy has always been, if my glue takes that long to dry or my paint takes that long to dry, I'm using the wrong product. I like to work, and if I get a couple hours to work in an evening, I don't want to do 10 or 15 minutes worth of work and then be sitting around with nothing to do because I'm waiting on something to dry. So I like a lot of products that will work quickly. So acrylic paints are one of those. They dry really fast, and they get a good job of coverage. And you can buy these little bottles for less than a couple of dollars. And if you catch it on, for lack of a better way of putting it, some mommy-friendly holidays, Easter's, Mother's Day, things like that, we tend to do a lot of craft work and stuff. Sometimes they'll put them on sale for $1 or less a bottle. So at least they used to. Nowadays, who knows? Inflation being what it is, you may have to take out a loan to get a full set of colors. Now, because I'm not done with my paintbrushes, a little bit of water cleanup is fine. In fact, when I get home, I'll probably do a final washout on these. Anytime I'm using a brush, I don't like this one. I set in the bottom because it's a cheap brush and I don't care. But something like this, where it's a little more expensive and it's a fine tip, don't leave it just sitting in a glass of water like this, because what it's going to do, it's going to round over the tips of your brush and it's going to ruin it. Like I say, the bigger brushes, the bristles are a little bit stiffer. There's a little more to them and they'll put up with it. But the real fine brushes, rounds and spotters and things, you'll ruin a brush in a heartbeat.
They didn't use it to paint around corners.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Actually, it's crooked. You use it to paint politicians or lawyers.
Hey, Blaine,
Yes, sir.
you can get that brush conditioner stuff. that
Yeah.
packs.
Yep.
It'll help straighten that back out if in fact you've got a messed up brush.
Yeah, but it only helps so much, though.
Oh, you're right.
So it's one of those, it's better than nothing.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
And if you've got a natural fiber brush, Fox or something like that, you can actually use just regular hair conditioner, and will do a really nice job of taking care of your brush. If I was done with these brushes for the day, and I didn't bring it with me, so I'll actually hit these two brushes when I get home. I buy the brush cleaner over at Hobby Lobby. It comes in a little brown tin, or it's actually
Master's Touch or
yeah,
something like
yeah,
that, yeah.
it's got a, like Dr. Bryan's or something like that. But yeah, it's Master Touch. It's a little plastic tin about that big around, and it's about an inch or so thick. And you open it up, and you can buy it by the bar, but I like it in a little tub. Just unscrew the lid, put a little bit of water in it, scrub your brush around on a little bit, wash the brush back and forth in the palm of your hand, just kind of like this. Rinse it out real good, straighten it up. If you need to put any conditioner on it, you can do it.
So are we at a breaking point where
Yeah.
we could do,
Yeah.
show and tell?
Yep.
Okay, so we could, we're at a break point now, we'll let all the paint dry and we'd start show and tell. So, anybody got anything for show and tell? Daryl?
I came across this on a YouTube video the other day, and I ordered some. How many of you ever heard of liquid gravity?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a really fine steel, I guess, bearings for lack of term. They are way smaller than buckshot. It's really tiny, but you can put that under your flat cars or things of that nature that needs some weight added to it, and it's put a little dab of glue on top. The other one is we've talked about before is some of the UV resin glue. This is some I got on the internet. It's got a little applicator bottle, and you have a pen that lights up and it cures it instantly, basically. And it's a really strong bond. I use this when I'm putting birds on roofs or little bitty details on. I will use this, and it holds much better than just normal CA. But both these things are kind of cool. Liquid gravity is pretty handy.
Yeah, I've used that liquid gravity in a lot of cases. It works out really well. You've got a locomotive that needs a little bit of weight, especially like a steam locomotive. If you've got access to the domes, you can come back in and pour a little bit in that. You can pour a little bit in the, like you said, in the underframe of a freight car. You know, smoke boxes, is anywhere where you can shove a little bit of weight, go for it. Yes, sir.
Okay, so who else has got something, David?
Yeah, so when we go to pop the trim out, we'll come back in and look later. Yeah. I mean, if you want to pop yours out and paint them now, go for it. Okay, while we're waiting this stuff, he's going to show you this. Let me get a quick count. How many N-scalers are working in the room today? One, and you have 2 kids, so I owe you 2 windows.
No, oh, yes.
Hello. Last month, I showed a website where you could print out brick. It was modelbrickyard.com. You can pick your brick color, you can pick your mortar color, the type of brick you use, etc. And I said, I thought this was really good. I made this little structure, both HO and O, and I said, this is really good for the 3-foot back or background building, etc., because you can't tell that there's no relief. Both Lance Mintheim and Paul Dolkos did quite a bit of, they just create a box, and they would take pictures of actual structures, and they would glue it to the box. And they both said, if you do that, if you want to make it look a bit more realistic, add relief to your building, windows, shades, signs, etc., and don't forget to weather it. So what I did is I picked up a couple of Grant Line windows, just painted them, I cut a hole in the structure, and then I did a 5-minute weathering, not even 5 minutes, with 3 colors of pan pastels. And I'm looking at this, and I'm saying, you know, this meets, for me, the 1-foot mark, not 3 foot. definitely a background structure. So I thought I think it's a great technique. You don't have to spend a lot of time coloring bricks, painting, marking off individual bricks, etc. Just add some windows, some shades, some signs, and I think it looks pretty realistic. So again, it's Model Brickyard, singular, no S, modelbrickyard.com. You can pick your brick color, type of brick, mortar color, et cetera, et cetera. So this is it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Go for it.
On our layout by the Gulf Sand and Gravel, if you look straight back at the lower level, there's two new buildings that I've set there. Why I wanted to point those out is those came out of the structure room, but they were plain Jane. My point is, with both those buildings, I've added details and signs and piping and oxygen bulk tank and propane tank. One of them is Fussell and Company Metal Works and Foundry. The other one is a Dow Chemical building, the taller building. And for the Dow Chemical building, I put a concrete dock on it that's made out of styrofoam. What I want to emphasize is that if you have structures at home that you put together 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or if you get structures at a garage sale, but they're plain Jane, the paint looks terrible, you can rehab a structure, add details, and take it to a whole new level. So when you are looking at what you can buy at a garage sale or what you have at home, think about adding detail to spice it up. So those two structures under there have had a lot of extras put on them, and I'm really happy with the way they turned out. Thank you.
Anything else for show and tell?
Not sure I'll tell, but I have a need. Chris Mahan and I are looking for a code 100 double crossover for his layouts. If anybody has one stashed away in the drawer that they're going to use, and what was that? HL. Number 6.
Double crossover or double slip switch?
Double crossover.
Anything else?
Anybody got anything else?
Okay, where's my O scaler? Dave, here's your window glass for both of yours, and we'll set it right there. All right. HO, I'll start handing out those.
Oh, okay, yes.
This is a product called Duralar. You used to be able to buy it over at Hobby Lobby, and they've stopped carrying it, but you can order on Amazon. Comes in 3 thou, 5 thou, get 5. This stuff is amazing. It's a Mylar-based product, as I understand it, and it was meant to be a acetate replacement for your table. No, probably not.
Daryl,
Yes,
there's a question from Don Hummel. What was the name of the glue that you mentioned?
this is, Let's Resin, it's on Amazon. It just says UV resin on the bottom, but there's several people that make it, it looks like clinical or a little different out.
Window of each of these, so there's one spare. You only should have got one of those. Yeah, you only should have got one card, so congratulations. Yes. That's the only thing.
Okay, everybody should have window glass now.
How do you spell Duralar?
Durlar. It is a really nice product. It cuts with scissors, cuts with a number 11 or a scalpel. More importantly for me, I can cut it with my laser without melting it. You will note the window probably has a little bit of fog on it. How I do that, or how I clean that up, is I will take this, you know the rag you use to clean your glasses? I keep a spare one of those on my bench. I take the window glass, I put it in I stick it in the deal, and then I buff it with my thumb and my finger. All that fog will come right off of it. Then I grab a pair of negative tweezers, I reach in, I grab that piece of glass, and then I never touch it ever again. The tweezers will hold on to it while I glue the mullions on it, and I glue it into the building. So that, again, you know, you guys have heard me preach about these negative tweezers a lot, but they stay closed until you open them. And that is a handy, handy, handy tool. I've got well over a dozen of these things on my bench. I've probably got 3 or 4 different pair here in my toolbox, and use them constantly when I'm modeling. So if you don't have any of those, next time you see the Route 66 tools at the train show, definitely go through the whole box. You'll have a tray of them sitting there that may have 2 or 3 dozen in them. Play with them all, because all of them are going to have a slightly different hook. Some of them will be sharper, some of them will be duller, some of them are straight. And every one of them, because these things, you know, this is made the Paquet Stand Company, and the quality control there's not real good. So each one of them will have, some will have light pressure to open them. Some you actually have to push on them pretty hard. Some have kind of a medium tension on them. And you're going to want some for some and some for others. I don't like real stiff opening ones, but anything from a medium to a light, I'll grab. Some of them up here aren't the grind isn't even, so like one leg of it's a little long, and I come back in, I'll take an emery board and I'll sand that down and at least even them up. I've got pairs that I've actually taken and sharpened this hook to where it's actually really pointy, and I use it for coming back in and dragging across wood and distressing it. And like loading docks, the ends of loading docks always get ripped up because you don't very daintily grab a piece of equipment, lift it up with the crane or the forklift, and very ever so gently drive it over and sit it down on the flat car. You grab a hold of that thing and you drag it. You drag it off the flat car onto the dock, you grab it off the dock, you drag it onto the flat car. Nobody's getting paid to be dainty. Because of that, the ends of those boards get beat up really bad. This is how you beat them up. Take the sharp ends of those things, and like if this was the end of a loading dock, I would come in here and just start ripping the snot out of the end of those boards, and you can do that with a sharpened pair of negative tweezers. So they're not just for holding parts. Okay, where is everybody? We done painting? Ready to move on? Cool. All right. Hey, Jeff, can you grab me a bottle of water, please? Yep. Thank you, sir. Preaching's thirsty business. Okay. You about done with the green there, Steele? All right. Okie dokie. I'm going to start getting ready to do a little construction. Paint's good and dry. Now, One thing I want to point out, if you look at your doors, I laid the board spacing out evenly and then come back in and cut it. But you'll note, one board is not even half a board. I hide those by turning them around and gluing those to the frame, okay? That way, when you're looking at it, it's kind of hidden. It's up next to the building, it's up next to the trim, and you're not gonna notice the partial board as much, okay? So when you get ready to glue these in, do it that way. One of the things I could have done on this to make things a little bit quicker is I could have just engraved the doors differently, because this is all cut from the same piece. And I could have cut this all in one, but I always like to leave an option for the modeler. If they want to model it with the doors open and actually try to come back and put an interior in this, you can. So if you want to wait and put your doors in later, go for it. I'm going to build this so they're basically shut, and just go ahead and glue them in place. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue. I like to use Aleene's tacky glue. They make a turbo tacky. In fact, let me get that bottle out and I'll show you that one. So there's several different options when it comes to adhesives. So here's Aleene's premium quality turbo tacky. This sets up even quicker. So if you've got something you're really trying to, gain some speed on, you can go that route. I really like working with the tacky glue. Because it holds, it grabs and holds. Cool. Get you everything you need? Mm-hmm. Excellent. Okay, well, if you need some more, you know where the bottle is. Pardon me pouring water on the camera for those in YouTube land. When I'm building structures, I really like to use the Aleene's. A lot of folks, Jeff's a fan of using yellow carpenter's glue. And I have some of that with me here. These little bottles, you can buy those over at Hobby Lobby. It comes with a little needle applicator. I've got 2 bottles. This is regular Tight Bond, and then I have some Tight Bond 3. A lot of times if I'm doing freight equipment, I want regular Tight Bond. I want the extra hold. I want it to be a strong joint because now I've got a train pulling and pushing on those joints. If I'm building a bridge, wooden trestle, I'm building a structure, I want a little flexibility in it, because if you don't get the walls perfectly 90 and you try to bend them into shape and you've used this, you're going to break it. You're not going to break the joint, you're going to break the wood. With using this, it's flexible and it will let you tweak it back into plumb, basically. However, I'm going to show you a little clamp I like to use. You might have seen these before. Now, for those who've watched me build things before in clinics or have come to one of my make and takes, you'll note I like to work in the bottom of a shot glass for my glue. This does a couple of things. It keeps the glue up off the work surface. I thought one of the most genius things I'd ever seen before I found the shot glass trick was if you put glue on a sticky note pad. And once you got your glue to a certain point and it was piled up or whatever, you can just peel it off, throw that one away, and you got a brand new pad. The problem is it's still right here on your bench where you're working. Now, my modeling bench is in my living room. My wife was complaining that she comes cruising down the hall one night and she goes, we don't talk much anymore, right? Okay, having played left drift in high school, I knew that meant I was in trouble. And so I stopped working on the trestle I was working on, and I go down the hallway and sit down. We start watching TV together. And she gets up to go mess with the laundry or whatever, and I looked over and I went, she's sitting on her end of the couch doing her cross stitch. Well, she can do her hobby in the living room. I can do my hobby in the living room, and we can talk and watch TV. So I went and grabbed the tape measure, measured the drafting table I'd been working on back in the office, and I'm standing there with it in the living room. She comes walking in, and I was like, I'll be darned, it'll fit right there. She goes, what'll fit right there? I said, a modeling bench. She said, what makes you think you're moving that into the living room? I said, well, let's see. Did you not just say we don't talk much anymore? Well, yeah. Are you not sitting on the couch doing your hobby? But I've had my bench in the living room now since 2005.
Why, you're a lot smarter than we give you credit for.
Greatest thing I ever did for my marriage. We just hit our 25th anniversary, and I credit that to be a big part of it. My modeling bench has now grown from the drafting table to a very large L-shaped desk that we used to have back in the office back before the days of Wi-Fi, and you had to be Cat 5 wired into work. So Now it's one wing of it's my office, the other wing of it's my modeling bench. So I just glued my doors in. I'm not going to make this one to be an open doored situation. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start gluing two walls together. Now, what we're going to do is what a friend of mine down in Houston termed the L7 method. We're going to make an L, we're going to make a 7, and then we're going to glue those two together to make the building. So you're going to pick one wall. Now the wall with the window can either have the window at the front or it could have the window at the back. Your choice. So I'll let you pick one, and we're going to glue it to the front wall. So I'm going to put my window in the back. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to glue it to the back side of the peaked wall. Now, you guys have heard me preach this before, but just in case this is your first time, Jeff, put your fingers in your ears because I'm sure you're tired of hearing this too. Always, whenever you have a wall with a peak on it, that goes to the outside of the joint. Okay, that means the wall that you glue to it glues to the inside edge of that wall. And there's a reason for it. If you glue that wall on the outside of the joint, so the peaked wall's on the inside of the side wall, now look what happens to your roof. When your roof comes down there, you've got one wicked gap that you now have to put a piece of trim on to cover, or you get to sand the whole thing back. I see some very popular YouTubers that build buildings like this, and I'm practically throwing my iPad across the room when I watch them do it. The wall with the peak always goes on the outside, so your side walls are going to glue to the inside edge on the back side of that peaked wall. That way your roof will lay flat and you won't need additional trim. The one thing to be very careful of, in my case, this is the top of the wall. I've painted it with a little more solid white than I have the rest of the wall. I want to make sure when I glue these two together that that goes to the top. All right? Now for corner clamps, you've got several options for those. Legos are perfectly square. So we had a rule at my house. If I step on it, it becomes model railroad material. I have a larger Lego collection than my son. I gave most of it back to him here a while back. He asked me what that was for. I said, well, you've been mowing the yard all summer? He said, yep. I said, think of that as your payment. You're getting your Legos back. Cole brought these up. These are magnetic ones that he picked up a couple of Plano shows ago. And these work really well. And they kind of lend themselves to just about any kind of material. As long as it's not too thick, the magnets will grab and hold, and it'll hold it at a 90. I like these. These are made from Kaufman Graphics. They've been out now and available for years. It is a brass tube with a piece of foam on the inside edge. It's got a knurled nut up here so you can loosen it up. You can adjust the angle of it here. So if you're putting together a DPM building, for example, and you've got a large cornice up at the top that you're reaching over, you can rotate this guy all the way out, and it will now reach up and over and clamp onto the wall and help hold it in place without breaking your cornice piece. So this is my favorite all-time clamping system. Later on YouTube, Kaufman, if you're watching this, reach out to me. I'm on the LSR website. I'd love to talk to you about a deal. But seriously, these clamps they're the bomb. They really are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand these two up. I'll show you how you use them. I'm going to put these two together kind of loosely, and I'm going to get this clamp ready to go. So I'm going to start with one wall out of the two, and I typically start, in this case, since I've got a wall with a peak in it, I'm going to put that one in first. I'm going to make sure that this is going to line up right for what I painted to be my top edge, and then I grab the back side of the clamp, and I'm going to hold the straight wall tight. Then I'm going to line up where the peaked wall is going to go, and I'm going to now clamp that in just with my fingers. I'm going to adjust the top, and I'm going to crank the knurled nut down on just the peaked piece of the wall. So now I'm going to come back in. I'm going to feel it with my thumbnail. I've got just a little bit too much overhang, so I'm going to shove that over just a little bit. And the whole time I'm making sure that the walls are also pushed down against my work surface. So now it's in plane vertically, horizontally to the tabletop, and it's now at 90 degrees. That's why I love these clamps. You can do something similar with clothespins and a Lego. Works just fine if the Lego's big enough. Even the big Duplos that the little kids play with, those boogers are square. So you can use those for all kinds of things. So now I've got the clamps set up. I'm going to come back, I'm going to peel the straight wall out, and I'm going to put some glue on it. Now these little clamps come in several different sizes. I've got some that are about, the whole thing's maybe that long. I've got a couple that are about that long. I've got this long, I've got that long, and I've got one that's, G scale. It's huge. So I'm going to loosen this clamp up a little bit now that I've got a bit of glue on this. I'm going to slide it back in place, and I'm going to set it back down on my workbench. I'm going to make sure it's all the way down, all the way up against the peaked wall. I'm going to hold it and tighten it down. Now the other cool thing about these clamps is, notice the openings in the back. I can come back in with a piece of strip wood, cut it, put a little bit of glue on it, drop it in as a corner block, and let it hold the whole thing, and let it glue wall to wall and brace to wall all at the same time. Like I say, these clamps are amazing. They are a little bit pricey up front, but I've been using these now for 16, 17 years, maybe longer than that, something to that effect. And, never had an ounce of trouble out of them. Yeah, very much so. And again, they come in several different sizes. I think the biggest one's probably a foot long, maybe something like that. I mean, it's really good size. So. Oh yes, they've got one. Yeah, thank you. They've got one that actually, if you're gluing wall pieces together, so you've got a really long sidewall and it comes in two pieces. They've got one that you can slide the two walls together, and it will clamp those down and let you do a butt joint that way to create, one contiguous wall piece.
Really good for DPM stuff.
Yes, these clamps really, if you're doing DPM buildings, these things are awesome. The thing with a DPM building too, this will be a tip for you, but outside of this particular kit structure, DPM buildings have a draft angle on them. The walls do. So the walls, instead of being perfectly square, have a little bit of an angle to them so they can come out of the mold easier. But that means you've got to go back in and sand that off. That's where that Ultimation sander we've talked about in the past comes in real handy. If you're really careful, emphasis on really careful, you can use a bench-mounted sander. One of the things that I've done in the past where I've got a pretty good size structure and I'm trying to true it up is I've actually taken a vibrating sander and mounted it upside down in a bench vise, and then come back in and put some 220 on it, and then I can come back in with the wall and just bounce it as flat as I can on that. And that works out okay, but that Ultimation sander really shines in a situation like that. Okay, double check, make sure I got this thing, the wall glued the right side up. All right, I'm gonna let those two dry. And probably about 10 minutes we'll be ready to glue those two halves together. Yeah, if you're doing the Katie one, from what I found in some further research, they put windows kind of sort of everywhere, but in all the slides that Steel had, the windows were on the back side. So in this case, they would be on the back. If you're looking at the front of the building, they'll be on the back left if you're doing a Katie type. I did, however, find some pictures later, or mentions in the article too. There were a couple that had a window in the very back wall. In fact, I think even one of your slides had a picture of it with it in the back walls. So like most railroads, they probably had some that didn't have a window in it at all. Some probably had windows in 3 of the 4 walls. It just kind of varies on who built it and what they had available to them. All right, everybody got their walls glued together?
We're building ours out of a different material than the cake used.
Yes, we are.
Repurposed boxcar.
Yes, sir. So that's one of the reasons why these are engraved like they are. It looks like scribe siding, but it's running horizontally. Katie would literally, as they were replacing sheathing on the boxcars, they would pull these things and save the boxcar sheathing, and they would turn around and use them for sheds. So basically, it's car siding. You'll see it listed at Home Depot or Lowe's, if you're from up north, Menards and places like that, sometimes as just tongue and groove siding or V-groove siding. It's car siding. Basically, you've got like a 1x6. It's got a V in the center of it, so it looks like two separate boards. And then either outer edge has a chamfer on it, so that when one side's got a tongue, one side's got the groove. When you put those two together, it makes another V groove. So it looks like a bunch of little narrow boards, but it's really, two boards in one kind of deal. But that was your traditional car siding for ages. You'll find it used as ceilings in a lot of train depots and freight warehouses and things like that, if it had a ceiling at all. Mainly because they bought it by the board foot and by the thousands, so they had plenty of it. Okay, I'm going to cruise around a little bit. If you've got any questions, hit me up while I'm by. I'll try to wait till everybody's at least caught up to that step before I start the next one.
Duane?
Yes,
What, Gary's asking, what's the name of that clamp?
it's made by Kaufman Graphics. I believe it's COFFMAN Graphics. Yes, COFFMAN Graphic Solutions Company. And let me look on this to see if you may have a website tucked on his paperwork here somewhere. Mr. Rainey had a. Yeah, I don't see a URL on it, but Kaufman Graphic Solutions Company. Thanks, sir. You bet. Yeah, those clamps are amazing. 1, 2, 3 blocks. Look at that shit. Yep. Yep. Looking good. Looking good.
Just like that.
I think I found mine where
I found one of these at a hobby shop in Connecticut. I think I got the other one in Connecticut.
All right. Now, normally, and I did kind of skip this, normally I would tell you, whatever you're going to do to the walls to get them wet, do it while the building is still flat. We've already started putting ours together. But again, this is plywood, so unless you just soak it in your stain, you'll be fine. I'm going to put the stain on almost like I did the paint. It's going to be more of a dry brush kind of thing. With acrylic paint, you just don't want to scrub it because you'll reactivate it. But if you just kind of wipe it on a little bit, it'll sink in and it won't reactivate the paint and start making a muddy mess of things. All right, I'm going to look at my first wall. It may already be set up enough I can take it out of clamps. Here's the first one. There's the second one. All righty. So let's go ahead and glue them together, and then we'll come back in and put a little stain on it, because it's not going to make too much difference at this stage because the building's already together. Same principle. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the back side of this wall. I'm going to line them up, glue them together. It's just in this case, you kind of have to do both of them at the same time. So you are kind of playing beat the clock just a little bit. You can, if you use Aleene's or canopy glue, which is basically the same thing, you can kind of pry it back open. You can do one at a time. I don't like to do that because it'll really stress the joints. But if you, since you've got the first two plumb, you can just kind of shove them together and use the lines on your cutting mat, and that'll get you pretty close. And then you can come back in and we'll add the clamps. So I'm going to open the clamp up real wide and set it in place. I'm going to double check to make sure I don't have an edge that's proud in here anywhere. Double check that. Okie dokie. Now, a lot of times when I'm building these things, because I've got so many of these now, I'll glue all four of them together almost at once, and that'll allow you to work even quicker. Okie dokie. Let's see, those are S scale windows. Where are the HOs? Here we go. And find my scissors here. So while that's drying, I'm going to glue my window glass onto the mullions piece. So I'm going to cut out my window glass and promptly lose it on the mat. I'll move it up into that darker spot so I can see a little easier. And I'm going to cut out my my window frame. Now, I want to show you guys this. Fiskars makes this X-Acto knife. It uses a regular number 11, but where this guy comes in pretty cool is, check out the shape of that. It's not round, it's kind of triangular, it's a little thicker. So again, it falls into I like to have a bigger handle, but it's got a nice flat spot. You can put your finger on the top of it and draw it along. I bought this the other day over at Hobby Lobby and really, really like it. Found it back in the modeling section. However, I've been doing most of my modeling with a scalpel. I also have a large handled X-Acto, uses a bit bigger blade. If I'm cutting through some material, I'm cutting window openings and siding that I haven't used the laser on, I go to this knife. This gives me a little bit more to hold on to, and I've got a stronger blade if I'm hogging through some material. If you don't have one, definitely get you a handle and get you some flat chisel blades. These things are wonderful for scraping. They're wonderful for punching out window openings, door openings, and whatever. Get some of these and start playing around with them. Put them in a spare handle, and whenever you're working on something and you're thinking, it'd almost be nice if I had a really teeny tiny chisel. Guess what this is? Yeah, if you want to scrape some dried glue off of a joint, take the blade and turn it with that angle side down. Tip the blade up till it matches the angle. You will not cut into your wood while you're sliding it underneath that dried glue and getting it to pop up. It won't dive into the wood and want to cut it. So you can use this to cut off dried glue. You can turn it around on the side, or even just drag the back side of it and use it as a scraper, like a card scraper if you're familiar to woodworking. So there's a lot of different things that you guys can use these for, and they are another one of these phenomenally handy tools. So if you don't have one, definitely go get you one. Answer.
Well, on your Fisker, does that happen to use the number 11 X-Acto blade?
Yes, sir. It comes with something that's a little bit different. I'm sure it's a Fisker's version, but yeah, you should be able to put a number 11 in that.
I'm getting a little bit tired of the round.
Me too.
Yep.
The round shaft.
Okay.
X-Acto,
Yeah.
because
So
the blade loosens up too easily and it moves around in your hand too easily.
yeah. So I bought one of these years ago, and I like it. It's a bigger handle, got a flat spot on it so it doesn't roll off the desk. And by the way, if you haven't figured it out now, or God hasn't given you this little lesson the hard way, a falling knife has no handle. All you can do is move your legs and your feet out of the way as quickly as possible, let it hit the floor, and deal with the damage. Oh yeah. So the problem I have with this one, and you can even kind of see it. See how it looks kind of glossy? That's a rubberized handle, and over the years, the oils off my hands have soaked into that. It's now sticky. I keep this for this very example. If you see one of these, don't get it. Now, I'm worried that this may do the same thing over time, because this orange stuff is how this felt 20 years ago. They make another one that's got a rubberized handle, and it's got a little bulb on one side of it. It's round, but it will only roll till it hits that bulb and it stops. So it kind of acts like a kickstand almost. Both of those are really nice, and they're a little bit bigger. Now this is the point in the clinic where I wished I'd remembered to have brought my Optivisor, but I'm going to come along the top here, and I'm going to drag my scalpel blade along, and hopefully that window will pop right out of there. Sir. Yeah. Another thing I've done in the past too, that Mike's kind of alluding to, is I'll take a wine cork, and I'll cut one side of it off to create a flat spot, and then I stab the number 11 down into the thin end of the cork, and let that be a blade protector. And then that way, if it's going to roll anywhere, it'll roll to that flat side and stop.
Wait, I never got an HO window.
You didn't get a white window? Let me correct that little problem here. Let's see what I did with my scissors. Right there, right next to the snake bite kit. Now on the windows that I gave you, that's not the complete cutout. You'll have to trim the edges up a little bit. I just cut it out of the sheet with the scissors. So, but a lot of those little pieces should just come right off. There is a small gate on it too, so if you want to really get anal retentive about it, you can go ahead and clean that gate up. But it's another one of those, if I don't do that, it doesn't stay in the sheet, and then the suction for the exhaust pulls it up and blows it out into my side yard, which at that point does neither one of us any good. All right, so I've now removed the window piece from the carrier. I'm going to set that down on my bench here where I can find it. I've got it upside down. Now I'm going to do that little deal I told you about before. Let me make sure I've got all my edges cleaned up off my window glass, and it looks like I missed one right around that gate. So I'm going to come back in. I'm going to hold this down with my finger and cut that little guy off and trim that up just a little bit. Okay, now this is the point in the clinic where I was mentioning before I'm about to buff this thing up a little bit. I do not have a glasses cleaning rag with me, so I'm just going to use the tail of my shirt. But the idea is I'm going to get it down here. I'm going to let it go with the negative tweezers. I'm going to sit here and buff it for a minute in my shirt tail. Then I'm going to reach in with the negative tweezers. I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to kind of get the light, what we call raking light. I want to see the reflection on the glass. And that's one of the reasons why I like this stuff so much. Acetate, if you used that in windows before for all the old school guys, you'll know you had the little lines kind of running through it, and there's nothing you could do about that. So that's why a lot of us, when we went to doing contest models, we're actually using microscope slip covers, and we were cutting those for window glass. Since I found this product, I haven't cut a sheet of glass since, because the glass is a pain to work with. You've got to have a diamond scribe. You've got to know how to cut it just right, because you can't cut it like you do normal glass, or it'll shatter. And then you've got all the little glass shards, and they're all over everywhere. You got to have a special little cutting mat labeled glass only, because if you start cutting other things on it or do it on your regular mat, you will end up with little glass shards embedded in your hand. Ask me how I know this. So it's one of those where this product is easy to use, and the reflectivity is just as good as glass. And the nice part is it comes in a 24-inch wide roll that's 6, 8, 10 feet long, something like that. It'll do more window glass than everybody in here needs for their home layout and probably the club. Again, it comes in 3 thou and 5 thou, and I like the 5. The 3 is just a little too wavy.
What's the name again?
Duralar, Durlar. It's definitely one of those, go together with your friends and order some. It comes in a roll. It also comes in 8.5 by 11 sheets. At least it did when Hobby Lobby was carrying it. So it might be worth, yeah. The sheets are actually a little bit better when you're working with them because they're flat. I'm working with a roll, but I'm also working with a laser, and I've got a 12 by 24 cut bed. So I can lay the whole sheet, cut it in 12-inch long sections, and then drop the whole thing in the laser. Then I figure out, okay, the piece I'm cutting is roughly 5 by 3. I can put weights on it inside the laser to make it hold it flat. All right, so I'm going to take my window glazing, and normally I would do this with another pair of negative tweezers. However, I just noticed I missed some edges when I was painting it. So let me get my brush back out. Let me get my green back out, and we're going to touch up some paint here. Because Lord knows after talking about it to you guys, if I don't paint an edge, I'll never hear the end of it. Jeff won't let me, if nothing else. That's true. But if you can't rely on your friends to keep you humble and keep you straight, who can you rely on? Of course, flip side of that is if you can't rely on your friends to get you into trouble, who can you rely on? Okay. With my window, I'm going to rotate it around. I'm going to make sure that I got all the edges because, boy, did I miss them when I was painting this the first time. Now, this isn't going to mean we've got to stop and wait for this to dry either. This is the inside edge, and it's not going to matter. Okay, that looks good. That looks good. All right, we're good. All right. Put my lid back on, and I'm going to clean up my brush real quick. Alrighty. Now, working on the bench top here, I'm going to clean off my pen that I'm using as a glue applicator. I'm going to get just a little bit of glue, and I'm going to kind of hold it down on one side with my fingertip, and I'm going to very lightly put just a little bit of glue on various parts of the frame here. You don't want very much glue or you're going to get a bunch of squeeze out, and that's going to mess up your glass. You don't want to get any more glue on this than you have to. So I'm going to tip it back up just a little bit. I'm going to scrape just a little more along this edge, and I'm going to put just a little bit in the center as well. It doesn't take a whole lot to put this thing on. You don't have to make sure every square millimeter is covered. This isn't something that's going to get a lot of handling, and in fact, hopefully since it's window glass, you're never going to touch it again. So I'm going to make sure that anywhere where I've got it and it looks like it may be a little bit heavy, I'm coming in and I'm using the back side of the scalpel as a bit of a scraper to get some of this off of here, just to avoid the squeeze out problem later. Again, there's some different ways to put windows in, put parts together. I've seen guys do before in some of the make and take clinics. I've seen guys on YouTube do it where they'll grab the whole bottle of glue and just go at it. If you've got a very steadied, practiced hand doing it that way, you can get away with it. But to me, that's just asking for trouble. So I always put my glue on with a toothpick or a needle or something like that, just because I really want to control how much glue could end up on the surface. All right, now this window is perfectly square, so it doesn't matter which way you line your glass up. But I'm going to come in, I'm just going to slide it up to the edge. I'm going to hold it down just a second, slide my tweezers out, open them up, reach over the glass, and then grab it again. That acts as a bit of a clamp. It squeezes the glass down to the mullion and means I don't have to touch it. I can already tell you I got some squeeze out in the center. So while that is still wet, I'm going to drop this back down on the bench. I'm going to make sure that my glass is aligned, because if you've got any overhang, it's going to impact getting it into the window opening later.
Wayne, are we gonna mount this thing from the back or from the front?
I mount them from the back. So the question was, we're going to mount them from the front or the back? I'm going to mount it from the back, because I like the window to look inset just a little bit. Now, the one thing about this Aleene's, another reason why I like it, is it's a lot like canopy glue, where it dries clear, and you can come in and use a blade as a bit of a scraper, and you can let it, you can peel it up with it that way, and you can clean the squeeze out pretty quickly with it. So now that I've got that done, I'm going to take this and we're going to set it aside for a little bit and let that set up. And this ought to be ready to come out of clamps. Now, one of the nice things about working with Aleene's is a bottle of canopy glue that's about this big is about 10 or 11 bucks. That great big bottle is $3.99. So that's kind of one of those do the math moments. Don't buy a bottle bigger than this. They've got a bottle that's about that big around and about that tall. You'll probably not get through this before it starts going bad, but it will last for ages. After a certain time, when the bottle's not quite so full, I store this in an old antique glass salt cellar. The lid got broken on it. My wife was going to chuck it, and she goes, "Can you use this for anything?" And I snatched it real quick and ran off to the bench. And I set the bottle in upside down and let it lean. That way the glue's always down on this end where I need it. So for a while they were making a bottle. Yes, sir.
How do you spell Alene?
It is ALEENE''S.
ALEE.
Yep. I've heard it pronounced Aleene's, Eileen's, 2 or 3 different ways, but yeah, basically this is the stuff. This stuff? I get you? Cool. Yep. Yeah, some Walmarts have got them in the smaller bottle. And for a while, I don't know if they're still making it, but they had some where it had a clear lid up here that snapped over the whole thing so you could store it standing upside down. Yeah, he's got one of the small bottles right there. So I tend to buy this one because I build a lot of models. Not as many as I used to, but that's going to change here real quick. But at any rate, this is my favorite glue of choice. This will bond almost anything to anything. Did you get a roof on it yet? Cool. Bless you. Okay, I've got my building out of clamps now, so I'm ready to start putting some trim on it. Looks like that one's a little bit off. I've got just enough that I can bend it back into place. Another reason why I like Aleene's. I can kind of tweak it around a little bit. And looking at the lines, we look pretty square. Sweet. And no rock. You know, I'm pushing on opposite corners. If you get it out of square, the building will sit there and tick, 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 tick. That's where you can really get into a good sheet. Everybody know what that is? That's a cornhole bag. You can buy them as replacements if you don't already have some. I used to use my dive weights for this little trick. I use these for gluing the roofs down. You put a little bit of glue on this when we get ready to it. I'll demonstrate it. We'll set this on here. It will conform to any roof pitch and hold your roof decks down while the glue dries. You can go over to Academy, you can buy a set of replacement bags over there. I went in about 2 days after Breast Cancer Awareness Month ended, and they had a whole set that was two-tone pink, and nobody wanted two-tone pink. So I got the whole set for the price of what a couple of replacement bags cost, because I don't care what color it is. But this could come in real handy. If you have it where it's a little bit out of plumb and it wants to rock, I build all of my buildings and then I glue them down to a piece of a material called gator board. I buy it over at either Allied Plastics or Regal Plastics. You probably find it over here on the Fort Worth side at another plastics dealer. They make it everything from 3/16 up to 2-inch. It is not cheap. I don't recall because it's been a while since I bought it, but I bought 2 sheets of 3/16 over at Regal back when Regal was over off Harry Hines. I want to say I gave $40 or $45 for a 4x8 sheet. We have 3/4 inch on our new club layout, and I know that was almost $100 a sheet. The reason this stuff is really cool is it's kind of like foam core board, like you used to do presentations and stuff when you were in school, except for what it has on either side instead of a poster board type of material is a resin impregnated paper, kind of like this laser board. It is impervious to water. It is exceedingly strong. We built the Elk Canyon and Western layout on it. We're building the new Rush Creek layout on it. It is a wonderful substrate for a model railroad. It is dead flat. It is dimensionally stable, and it will not get freaky when you start putting water on it to do scenery. But one of the things I like to do with it is I get the 3/16 size, and then I will cut a piece slightly bigger than this building, and I will glue the whole structure down to that and weigh it down with one of these. If it's a bigger building, I use 2 or 3 or however many it takes. But what that will do is it will force the building then to lay flat. And this is especially important if you're going to have this evaluated or you're going to have it judged in a contest room. You want to make sure that building is dead flat, because as Jeff will tell you, one of the first things we do is we look for glue joints in the corner and then we test to see if it's going to rock on us. Because if the building isn't plumb, you lose construction points. So this way it'll help you correct the mistakes, and that's yet another reason why I like to build with the A-leans. It will allow you to force it back flat and it'll stay that way. Okay, we've got our window glued in. Now we're ready to start cutting some trim out. And the doorway up at the top has a little gate in it, and the smaller one underneath it that's a U shape has a gate at the top. Everything else has a gate across the bottom, and the 2 window trim pieces here that are vertical, both of those have a gate right across from each other in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut those out first. And as you drag your knife across, you'll hear it pop as you go across that little gate. I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to see if I can't get these 2 to come out. Sometimes if you get a little extra paint in there, it will help seal that joint up a little bit. So I'm going to set that over there on that roof piece where I know where it is. I'm going to grab this guy next. He's my window ledge. And I just broke one of the pieces for the trim. All right, let's get the door out of there before I break that one too. I'm going to move that up there. The U shapes are the door trim, obviously, and the smaller one is the bulk of the trim around the windows. It has an engrave line around so that the 2 verticals look like separate boards from the top. You'll also notice that this one side has a little extra wing on it where the other one does not. That's because with this door over here, you want to put the wing, the piece that does not, to the corner that's closest to the edge. So it'll go on there something, if I could get it to stop holding onto my fingers, or I can let it go, it will go on something like that. I'll straighten it up when we glue it on. So you've got the little bump out piece out here to this side. There's not room for it on the other side if you're doing it that way. So if you've got a door that's on the right, you may have to paint the other side of it because everything, the way that was set up in the sheet, it may come out the other way. The engraved line that runs along this edge and this edge, so these look like separate boards from this one. The engrave on this laser board, I think I've got a little too much power in it because I just broke the other window piece, but it's not that big a deal. Let's go ahead and pop this guy out. And we can always glue it back together again when we're gluing it down. There we go. All right, come on out of there. All right, that gets you there. Now let's get this windowsill out of here. The windowsill has, so the two vertical pieces, one of them is just a rectangle. One of them is a rectangle with a little inset in it. So it does like this. It runs across the bottom, comes up, goes in, then goes up, then goes across. That's the window sill. The piece that goes in and across will sit inside the window opening. And I put that in last and kind of gauge it to however far in my window piece is. And I've cut them a little bit deep, so if you need to sand a little off of it, so you get a nice flush match, you can. But if you've got them set really far back, that's also not a problem either. So this allows you a little flexibility. Just be careful getting that piece out of there just in case I've got a little bit of extra paint in mine, I think, and it's holding on. So I'm coming back in on the back side where I can see it a little bit. I'm running along the cut edges just a little bit. Make sure I break that thing loose. Okay, so that gives me all my window pieces. Let me grab that one, put him over here too. Okay. So let's do this. Let's put our window in first. So this is skinned over, so I'm gonna peel it up, fold it over, get down to some fresh glue. I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna put just a little bit of glue on the inside toward the back of the window opening in the wall. Emma, sorry about that. So I'm kind of trying to reach over and put it into the back as much as I can. And I'm going to grab my window frames again, not touching it. I'm going to come in from the back side and I'm going to reach in and lay it in place. And see what I can do about truing it up a little bit.
Wait, why don't you do that when the wall's so flat and not put together?
You can. The only problem with it is you can break that window piece when you're putting the clamps on it. If you use clamps like these, I've run into a couple of problems doing that. Yeah, traditionally I like to do as much as I can while the building's in the flat and before I start gluing it together. But I just found that these really delicate windows that sometimes that's just not feasible.
Do you want your mullion roof flush with the outer trim
No.
or flush, the glass flush with the back?
I tend to make the glass flush with the back.
Okay.
That way the window's got a little bit of relief to it. And I'm going to come back in with this same negative tweezers and the tips, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to scrape back any of that glue that's squeezed out. I like to, the reason I do that is I like to have the window to have a little bit of relief. So everything's just not right there on the edge. Ah, Coca-Cola, I miss you. You're like Scarecrow. I miss you worst of all. My A1C hit a 9, so yeah, Coke is verboten. If you ever talk to anybody who's an alcoholic, they can probably tell you where they were, the date and time it was, what their last drink was and everything. And I always thought that was kind of an odd thing to hang on to. I can tell you my last drink was a cherry Coke. It was at Popeyes. It was a Wednesday evening about 7:30 6 weeks ago. I know just how they feel. No, I do not do diet anything. I can't, there's this chemical aftertaste, you know? So yeah, I'm down to water. Tea always tasted like it was a soda and somebody left it on the counter without a lid on it and it went flat. And I love the smell of coffee, but I can't stand the taste of it. So here I am, ADHD, who treated it with caffeine, and now I don't have a source for caffeine. So yeah, it's been a fun 6 weeks.
Would your wife concur that statement?
Probably not. She would tell me I need to work on my definition of fun. Okay, so what I'm about to work on now is I'm going to go ahead and glue the trim around the window. So I'm going to start with what would have been the U piece that I managed to break getting it out of the picture, out of the frame. And I'm going to glue that piece on first because it's more or less boss. I mean, everything else is going to kind of follow along with it.
So the piece with the two little sections going at the ends goes on the top.
Yeah. The one that is or was a U shape in your sheet is the top part.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. All right. So now that I've already got glue on it, I got some edges to touch up. So get that done real quick. There are models where I will, like a little one like this, I would almost even put the trim and everything on it while it's still in the flat. At least I used to. Nowadays, I'll come back out and I'll trim it out later. Okay. So I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to lay this guy in place. Okay, so you've got basically, I'm going to have this U shape glued up here.
So the one with the notches is the windowsill, right?
Yes, correct.
Don't you want to put that in before you?
No, because the little notches also set around the outer trim. Let's give it a bit of glue. Glue the back side. Okay, so that would have completed the U-shaped piece. And now I'm going to grab the one without the notches, paint the edges real quick. Yes, sir. Cool. That'll work.
Where you're lit again.
Yeah. So I've got some onion skin paper and I've got some newsprint. If you want a few strips of that, I can cut you some. That's what I'm going to give out to everybody.
I'm not that here, so that's one of the reasons I just went on and didn't know.
Yeah.
Moved ahead.
Wait, you move up a little. There you go. Yeah, you stay within those gray squares.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Probably should have reset the camera and moved it all a little closer to me. All right, so now I've got the bottom piece glued in. Now I'm going to come back and grab that windowsill. So I want to turn it so that the notches are facing to my left when I grab it here with the negative tweezers. And I'm going to paint the edges on it. Now, normally I would be test fitting this first and then I would sand that inner edge of it. Having built this twice now in the last 2 weekends, I already know it's going to fit, so I don't worry about it too much. Also on this one, remember to paint the bottom too, because this one's going in perpendicular to the, or parallel to the ground, perpendicular to the walls, so. So I'm going to get a little bit of glue on that in the notches. That's way too much, so I'm going to grab it here with my thumb and my finger, and that will take off a lot of it. Put just a skosh back on that one, and I'm going to add a little bit across that inside edge and a little bit on the very, very inside edge on the bottom, because that will glue it to the bottom of the window opening. You really don't need a lot of glue when you're putting a model together, but you also, it's kind of a learning curve. You don't want to starve the joint either. We'll come in here, lay it down, kind of press it into place, and check the fit. And that actually looks pretty darn good. Press that down just a bit. I'm going to come back in. I've got a little bit of squeeze out here on the bottom. So I'm going to come back in and use that to peel that away. I've got one teeny tiny little place where I don't have any paint, which is where I was holding it with the tweezers. I'm going to hit that edge, and I'm going to touch this up just a little bit. And there you go.
Maybe I just have
So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check my door opening, and sure enough, it needs some help too. So I'm going to grab it across the corners because it's a little on the delicate side, and I'm going to touch up the edges.
Did you trim the bottom of the window, trim
Yes, there's,
to the same, or oh, it sticks out? Okay.
yeah. So it'll stick out like the top one does. Alrighty, brother, be good. If you can't be good, don't get caught. I don't have bail money. I'm probably sitting there in there with you. Okay. So those two pieces that were vertical in your window opening, one of those was your windowsill, the other one was the bottom of the, so you had a U shape. This is the bottom that went across where the bottom of the U. Did them in two separate pieces. Instead of doing it all as one big open square, I like to do them like this because it allows you a little bit of leeway if you're having to kind of fudge that joint a little bit. So now that I've got the glue or the edges painted, I'm going to come back and add a little bit of glue around the trim pieces. Again, this isn't one of those situations where you got to cover every millimeter. You just want to make sure you get a little bit of glue kind of along the edge, the bottom edge. Oh, you can see that a little better. There you go. Make sense?
Yeah.
So you've got the big U shape.
Yeah.
You've got the one that was vertical. Then you
Yeah.
got the one with the notches stood up. So I'm kind of going out to the edges. I'm putting a little bit in the middle and then get the other edge is how I'm doing this guy. Kind of press that down a little bit. And we're ready for corner trim. How's everybody looking? Yes, sir. Like I say, I've got about a dozen of these things sitting at the house, and I've probably got another pair in my bench or my belt box here. But yeah, these are a must. I'll cruise around the room, see if anybody's got any questions. I'm going to catch the arm of the chair on the bottom of the table and make everybody seasick on camera. Yeah, so far so good. I've got it out. two on first, and then put the top one on. If your door frame came apart, put the two verticals, and the shorter ones, put those on right up to the edge of the door opening first. And then if your door opening is on this side of the wall, the top board is going to be flush with the outer edge of that trim, and then it's going to stick out the other side. Okay, does that make sense?
So the overlap is to the center.
Yeah, the overlap is to the center, because when you go to put the corner trim on, it's going to be almost right up against that other piece of trim. Not sure why they didn't move the door a little more over towards center or center up the door to begin with, but
They got a workbench on the
true.
right side.
Yeah.
Just for anybody watching, Don Hummel also suggests negative tweezers make a great heat sink
Yes, they do.
for soldering.
Yeah. And in fact, if you've got the metal track gauges and your soldering drops onto your track, put the metal track gauges down on either side of your solder joint, get the wire up there, hit it with a little flux, get your soldering iron in there, because those, especially those little three-legged ones, man, they make a great heat sink, and it'll keep from melting your ties. Yeah, not bad. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
You put the corner trim on here. You make it over a little, it's pretty big. Put those little space. Put these two doors together. Little space. Right space.
So what I would trim should fit in here, it's what this kind of. Oh, it won't make them open, yeah. So yeah, what I would do is just put your trim on and then come back to your doors on the face.
So is this going to still be on? Is it curved in?
It's a tight fit. And there's a bit of a trick when you start putting trim on corners, okay? Now, some modelers like to use a piece of strip wood for the corner because you can actually get it to be a little more to scale. I've tried that, and I've had mixed results. Campbell kits came with a board that if you looked at it on end, looked like two squares tied together in the center. I like those quite a bit because you've got a flat surface like this that you glue one board wall to, you got another flat surface, you glue the other board to it, and then the outer box of it becomes the trim. I kind of like working with that, but you end up having the same problem both times. You've got a wall with this shape to it, and now you've got this sticking up off of it, and you have to be very, very careful when you're cutting that trim back that whole thing then continues the same slope. If you get it off one way or the other, you end up with the roof sticking out in a gap, or the roof lays flat, but you've got a gap down here because you cut it at a little bit of an angle. So it's a little tricky with doing it that way, and I've kind of gotten out of doing it just because I don't like fooling with it. To me, it is far easier to make a butt joint on the back side of that wall and tight with some trim. Now, having built houses when I was in high school, working on a framing crew, when we would come back in, they also worked with some of the trim guys and the siding guys when they would work as well. It was one of those, I need a hammer, go work over there. So one of the things you'll look at doing is you'll actually have one side, the board that's going to make the joint is narrower than the other ones. Because what's going to happen is you've got one board that's going to come out and you're going to nail it up to the wall, and it's, say, a 1x3, okay? Then you're going to lay up a 1x4 over it, and you're going to lay it like this. So now the 1x3 also has the other 3/4 of an inch thickness of the other board. If you don't do that, this one looks wider than this one, but if you let it do it in the overlap, they come out even. So we're going to do that a little bit with our trim here, which is how you get around that really tight fit at this door trim, okay? Does everybody need some time to catch up, or do we want to move on? Not a problem. While you're doing that, I'm going to start cutting your roofing. Steel, you done with the green? Okay. fiberglass back down in the box. So I can finish putting those in the kits. And hopefully those who signed up and didn't show
What's
up.
up in there, Judge? Right there, that crane?
No, that's actually something I'm taking home to finish.
It's pretty impressive looking, just kid.
Yeah. I've got a group of friends that we meet on Wednesday nights on Zoom. And we started this little project. We put everybody in a list in order. And everybody started a model and then sent it to the next guy.
Oh, okay.
The guy works on it, sends it to the next guy, sends it to the next guy. And so by the time it gets around to you've not touched it yet, but all your buddies have. And you get back a finished model that you can put on your railroad that all your friends have built. And it's been a fun project.
Okay, so the corner trim just goes on, covering up the brown burn marks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, more or less. There's a bit of a trick to that, so I'll get to that here in a second.
Okay, well, go ahead.
You modeling or playing golf? Said you modeling or playing golf?
That word comes up in most places.
Doesn't it though? Shooting around with a friend of mine from work. Rattle one or two of them off. I said, well, you talk like a golfer, if nothing else. All right, I'd hope to be nice and dainty with this, but it ain't happening. There we go.
Take a picture. We'll take a memory.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this would be fine.
I'll have to actually review my color slides to see how close this is.
I thought it got pretty close, but I knew I was dealing with some old, somewhat bleached out slides, but I thought that got pretty darn close. It may not be perfect, but I'm sure with a little bit more digging around at the paint row at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, you could probably get a lot closer.
Yeah, well, once it's on the layout and it blends in with everything else.
Yeah, nobody's gonna notice, and who cares, right?
It's kind of like picking the flush it out. Okay. Okay, so what are these pieces for the angle?
That's gonna be the trim on the peak wall. That's what I was saying, we'll be getting to that in a minute. Okay, I'm gonna be cutting some roofing material for y'all. We're gonna do a tar paper style roof. If you don't have one of these style cutters, look at getting one. Fiskars makes them. It's basically a miniature pizza cutter. For cutting paper and things, this thing is the best way to go. I'm cutting rice paper that we'll use for our roofing. I've measured out that it's 3 scale feet in width. Because that's the way it, pardon the pun, rolls. It doesn't have to be dead perfect, but don't go making it 4 feet wide and 5 feet wide and all of that. Keep it as close to 3 as you can. And if anybody from General Tools ends up seeing this on YouTube one of these days, for the love of all that's holy, will you please make a scale ruler where 0 is the edge? I would really love another one of those. X-Acto made them for a while and they quit. Having inches out here on this edge has mismarked more models than you could possibly know. Yeah, and change. I've got one of them at the house that's got a foot on it in inches, and then there's actually about another 6 or so scale inches before you hit the edge. I've been threatening to take them to a machine shop and ground down now for ages.
You don't realize you screwed up and put it through it.
Yeah. Okay, so if I do 1, 2, 3, yeah, just give everybody a strip. Okay, show of hands, I've got, let's see, one in scaler, looks like he's left. Ken's my O scale guy, so I've got, let's see, you're working an S. So how many HO guys do I have building right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Okay. While you guys are catching up, I'm gonna be cutting you some roofing. If you got any questions, let me know.
Why don't you make it 8, Dwayne, I'll take one to Mountain.
Okay. I will do that. Thank you, sir. Yeah, sure. Hmm?
How do you know like when it's up? Like how do you know it's too far?
Oh, yeah, overhang? Yeah, you just kind of have to eyeball it and see if it looks even on each end.
It's the GLAR theory. That looks about right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, one of the guys I worked with when I was framing, he'd look at that and he'd go, AD. I said, AD, and he'd go, "At'll do." Took me a minute to figure out what "at'll" was, but yeah. Okay, there's 4. Yeah, I was going to try to cut all this out already on the laser last night, but by the time I walked over to Hobby Lobby and walked back, it was too late to have the machine running, so.
You were walking distance of Hobby Lobby?
It's about a mile over there and a mile back, something like that. Yeah, my doctor has decided I need more exercise, so. While my wife was at work with the car, I said, well, Hobby Lobby is within foot distance, so away we went.
They know you are first name?
A couple of them do. I'm gonna set that one aside for me since I actually put a line down it. If you want to come back in later and put a sheet metal roof on this, obviously you can. Same thing applies. Sheet metal came in 3-foot widths, but links were kind of all over the map, so you can do those with whatever you want.
I think it was 30 inch, but it had 4 inch overlap, so 20 inches, 26 inches exposed.
Yeah. 5.
So, you said this was an easy build,
Mm-hmm.
that we'd be done in an hour.
Oh, I'd be done in an hour if I wasn't
Yeah, you
teaching.
would, you got plenty of practice doing this. Slowing it down. Yeah. You forget all the millstones you got around your neck.
Yeah, this is a good afternoon build model. I mean, build this and watch the game kind of thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need 2 more. And then I get to cut some S and some O.
I was daydreaming, what material are you using for the roof?
What I'm cutting right now is rice paper. I also like to use a Kleenex. You can take a Kleenex as long as there's no texture to it and no aloe or anything like that, just a plain Kleenex. And you can cut the strips and then pull the plies apart. And I'll take those a lot of times, put a couple of clothespins on them, and then hit them with the airbrush with some grimy black and pre-color them. I got the rice paper thing from Leo and Lori. They like using that
Where do you get
quite a
rice
bit.
paper at?
I got this over at Hobby Lobby. The big roll, I mean, this roll's about that much on the roll, and the roll's about that big around. It was $12, I think, something like that. But this will be enough rice paper for me and all my closest friends, probably.
You ever heard of silk stain?
Yes. Yeah, that works real well, too. Onion paper works real good. You just want something thin. I like the Kleenex because it's got a little bit of texture to it, especially in the bigger scales. S and O, for example, it looks really, really good. HO's kind of borderline, but it can work. Just got to, like I say, you got to make sure you don't have any little pattern to it or any dips in it or any aloe. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, HO people.
We need another straw.
Another one?
That's right, you guys have 2 of them. So let me cut an extra one here.
Said this one will be mine, and then they'll take this one.
I'm good. I needed them for the small guys.
Okie dokie. And let's see, 2S10. Okay, S scale. All righty. Those two. Actually, let's go ahead and mark the O scale one out while I'm at it. Okay. Okay, is everybody about caught up?
Hey, Duane,
Sir?
you don't need to come on, I'm gonna put it up.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'll stop right there. I was just about ready to cut yours. Yeah, again, the one thing about these that's kind of neat is we found that all the Katy ones we were able to find, the doors were on the left, but SP, the door was on the right. It's the exact same building. So there, it seems like a pretty standardized, kind of generic kind of deal. The railroads were so notoriously cheap. You know, pay the architect to design it once, and then you turn it into a kit form and send it to wherever you need it, which is why so many depots look really the same, but they're ever so slightly off in places. Okay, so next step we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put my trim on. I'm going to put my finger down across this, and I'm going to cut all the gates at once across the bottom. And then lift these parts and pieces out. Now, the set that has the angles, you've got two angles like this. They come in two different pieces. You should have two of each. Obviously, those will follow they'll go on the front and the very back, because those are the ones that match your peak. So you want to make sure, and I laid them out this way, so if you were painting them in the sheet, you had a right and a left. So you should now have nothing left in the sheet. You can throw that away.
You're safe, right?
You can. If I didn't throw everything away from every project I worked on in my shop and all my modeling projects, my house would definitely look like an episode of Hoarders.
And you don't need a storage container, storage, storage.
Yeah,
To put the crap in.
actually I do. That's the sad part. And I've got a big barn out back too, storage barn.
Expensive.
Yeah. When COVID first happened, I called pods, and I had them bring a pod out, set it in my driveway, cleaned out the shop, and then went through it all. And if it belonged in my wood shop, it went back into the shop. If it didn't belong in the wood shop, it went to the barn. And that was a great way to do it. I may have to do it again now that my daughter's moved out, to clean out her room, so I've got room to start building bench work. Okay, so what I'm doing with this is I'm going to start with the ones on the peak, and I'm going to set this one over here. I've got the corners, I got the edge matching, and get that put in there. Now, really quickly, I'm going to flip this thing over, and I'm going to get this guy put in, and you want it really to be there to cover up that burned corner. So, get some glue on this, and so what I did was when I went to put this thing in here, I want to come back now and I'm going to slide that little trim piece over so that it overlaps that corner. And you end up with this. And then I'll come back in and I'll touch this edge up here a little bit with some paint. Now, the nice part about working with this stuff on a glass bottle or glass shot glass like this is I can, once this glue has dried, I'll come back in with a pair of negative tweezers or a screwdriver or something like that, and that glue will just pop right off of there. And I've got a clean surface to work on the next model. No particular order, no particular one corners, they're all the same, so you can just glue them on and just make sure you get your the angles lined up.
Shouldn't that shot glass be turned over with something brown liquid in it?
That's what you do at the end. It's like Alton Brown says, I hate a unitasker. Yeah, this serves several functions. Usually something a little on the amber colored side. Yes, sir. Oh, sorry. Thank you, sir.
Way to keep them in line, David.
Yep. Yeah, let's see, nothing times nothing, carry the nothing.
Gives you big bucks.
That's right.
Still out here.
Okay, now that edge is lined up, so I'll move to the next one. And then after I said I start with the peaks first, I've done it without doing the peaks first on the last two, so it's actually technically a wee bit easier to do it, the straight one first, but it really doesn't matter one way or the other. The whole idea is make sure that the one that's going on the one that's got the angle on it can overlap just a little bit, because it's going to take all the width of this the straight piece to hide the edge. And I need that one. Now, I have on purpose done a little something here to simulate a bit of a boo-boo, and I'll show you how to correct it. One thing I've picked up from a luthier over in the UK that I watch on YouTube, he made a comment one time that I really like. He said, the mark of a craftsman isn't that they don't make mistakes, it's just they know how to recover from them. And a lot of times when we're building these things, you'll get in a rush, you'll get ahead of yourself, and we'll have a place where you've now got an issue.
Most of Bob Ross happy accident thing?
It can be. It very well can be. Okay. When you get this thing on, this last little bit right here by the door, there'll be just a little hint of white still showing by the time you get all this lined up right. There we go, about like that. Okay, so I'm going to come back in now. I'm going to touch up all these edges and give you another little hint. If you get one where you've got a little bit of a gap in there, believe it or not, if you're real careful, you can fill that gap with paint and it will go away. See, like this piece of trim, I actually stuck on here upside down. I had it painted darker at the bottom than at the top, so it needed a little more paint anyway. Well-placed bit of glue, a well filled in gap with a little bit of paint. Either, like I say, either with glue or paint will hide a few mistakes. If you've ever watched the Great Model Railroad Tours videos and seen the one on the Franklin, seen one of the three on the Franklin and South Manchester, that's one thing that George Celios comments on several times. Fortunately, future weathering will hide most mistakes. And it can. Or in some cases, it can accent them, and you can turn a mistake into a feature. All righty. Everybody got their corner trim on? All right. Normally, when I'm doing a tar paper roof, like I was talking about before with the Kleenex, I would even airbrush this first, but it's not a 100% necessity. So what we're going to do now, remember what I said before, we have one roof is ever so slightly a wider piece than the other. So that way, when you line this stuff up, the wider one will actually overlap the other and create a solid peak. Okay? So when you go to put them on, be very careful about that. Up front, I'm going to take my paper here, and I'm going to get a little bit of Aleene's. And this is where, because I need a lot of glue, I'm going to come straight from the bottle. And I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to start at one edge that will become the bottom. I'm going to start off the edge, spread it across, press it down, and I'm going to take my scalpel here and cut it. I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to overlap it just a little bit. Eyeball it to see if it looks even. Press it down into the glue. No, I'm still overlapping over here on this edge. So I'm going to come back over this again and cut it.
Only overlapping on one side?
Yeah, because I'm going to cut it flush as I'm trimming the sheet off. Now that I've done those two, I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to cut the other side off. And I'm going to come along this front edge where I got it a little bit uneven. And I'm going to do a little trim cut right there. Now, if you really want to get tricky with it, you can paint the edge of this, whatever your trim color is first. It's up to you if you want to do that. I usually don't paint this edge here. That's going to be the long edge at the bottom. The burn actually gives it a shadow, and we'll let it set up that way.
How much overpaint do we have? Should we paint the overpaint part?
You can. You definitely can. If you're looking to get it merited scored, then I definitely would. You can kind of line it up, kind of even it out, and then you can come back in. In fact, I'll show you how I do that on mine. Find my pencil here. Okay, so if I put this guy on like so, make sure my peak's aligned, kind of eyeball that guy there. I'm going to put a light little mark along that edge. Light little mark along that edge and on that edge.
You're out of the camera range.
Yeah. So basically what I've ended up doing is I held it up, put a little mark here, here, and here. So I'm going to come back with my trim color. And because this building is not going to have an interior in it, I'm not going to be real picky about making it perfectly straight. I'm certainly not going to paint the whole thing because that's a waste of paint. So I'm just going to come in, and this, because it's up underneath the roof there, this should be a pretty solid bit of color. So. And if you want to paint your edges, you can. I'll go ahead and paint these because it's not going to hurt it if it gets a little bit of green on the tar paper if you've already put some down, because we're going to come back and paint that in a minute anyway. So
I don't have tar paper.
I didn't give you a strip?
I don't think so.
Okay, give me a second. I thought I gave you one.
Unless it's on this white table and I don't see it, which could be a possibility. Nope, Steele's coming over to check it out to verify.
Or the one short?
Mm-hmm.
You need some more of that or what?
I can get out of the bottle.
You got an extra sheet there?
I don't. I'll have to cut you one.
Does it matter which side is the bottom of the roof piece?
Nope. Dealer's choice. On bigger roofs, I'll I'll engrave some lines on it so that you have some reference to keep you straight as you're going up. But for this, since it's only a couple of rows, I didn't worry about it too much. So no, dealer's choice. In fact, I had a guy, a friend of mine's working on, remember the depot kit we built here a couple of years ago? He had wanted one, and I mailed it to him. He's been working on it on these Zoom calls that I'm on, and he took the lines and actually turned those inside because he left the rafters exposed. So he left the lines visible and then drew him on some reference lines on the back side of the roof. Tar paper. So many times, a lot of the things that we do around the hobby and around, following the instructions on the kit, and everybody can chuckle because I doubt many of us follow the instructions that come with the kit, but at least read through them and get an idea of what they expect you to do, because sometimes they've got a special way that parts need to go together, and if you don't follow the instructions, it's not going to go together at all. But like most of you, I usually don't follow the instructions to the letter. Mainly because if I'm building a kit, it's never going to end up like it does on the box. But I will say, give their instructions a read and at least get an idea. But for a lot of this, it's all, and working fast, it's all about order of operation. And that's why that's why I told you, please don't work ahead. I've got a specific order that, I want to work in. And by painting this first and, there you go. By painting that first and then letting it dry, then you're painting this while that dries. And then by the time that's setting up and drying, the other one's dry enough, you can now start doing assembly. So there's a lot to be said for learning what order to put things in. Okay, so this one's another one of those. I'm going to get in here. I'm going to put some glue on it. Okay, so that's my bottom.
Possible to have just one more tiny sliver of press paper?
Yeah. Yeah, give me a sec. off that extra piece. You're gonna leave me that for that, you need your HO, yeah?
Yes, sir. Should I Venmo you the 8 cents worth of rice paper?
Yeah.
If that much?
Yeah, I'll front you. There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Checks in the mail.
It cost you more in postage than it's worth.
Right.
Okay. Now, I've got 2 strips of tar paper on my roof, and I'm ready to put my roof down. I'm going to visually reference which one of these is the wider of the 2, and I'm going to put the skinny one on first. Now, if this building was much longer than this, I would glue a piece of strip wood from inside edge to inside edge across that peak and turn it up on, so it's kind of diamond shaped, and offer a little more roof support. You could probably come back in when you get this thing home and do the same thing if you want to. But for this size of a building, if you only got a couple of inches, you can get away with it without having one in there. So I'm gonna go with just a little more glue. I'm going to spread the glue down the peak. On each side. You're not going to have a lot of glue that's going to hit the bottom down here. A lot of roof surface is going to hit this, but I am going to put just a little skosh in the middle toward the outer edge just in case, and maybe let that get a little bit of grab there. Now, I'm going to take the thick piece and I'm going to hold it up a little proud of the peak, just so that I know I slide this one up. I'm going to eyeball if you want to measure it and get exact, there's nothing wrong with that, but I want to use that as a stop so that I know where this piece here will need to end. So,
Wide one on first,
skinny one on first.
skinny one.
Yep, I use the wide one as a stop, get the skinny one on first. I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to put the glue down the other side and repeat with the wide piece. And I need to move this roof a little bit forward. I got it off a little bit. Okay, turn this around. Now, I'm going to pick this thing up and I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to check for squeeze out. And I did get some. Bogey again, huh?
Yep.
Okay. I've got a little loose edge here I'm going to clean up a little bit. Okay. Now, if you wanted to, you could stop at this stage, drop the cornhole bag on it and let it dry. Because it's tacky glue, and again, you've got plenty of surface on here and you're not going to be moving it around much, I'm going to continue to work. So again, this is one of those, years of experience talking here. Not one you got to wait for the glue to dry. All right, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue on each side of the peak, and I'm going to put a little bit on the overlap for this piece. I'm going to come and use the glue spreader that the good Lord gave us. Wipe that around just a little bit. Not just a lot, but a little bit. Wipe that off. And then I'm going to take this last piece of tarp paper here, and we're going to line it up over the center. Now, I'm holding on to either edge. Get up on the camera a little bit. I'm holding on to either edge, and I'm going to kind of line it up in the center because I can see through it. And then I'm going to start kind of in the center and push it out. And what you should end up with is just a little bit of overhang off of each edge. So I flip that back upside down. Now, because I don't want to drag across it because that's a freshly glued joint, here's yet another good use for the chisel blade. I can come straight down on it. I turn the angle out, and I can line that up against the roof edge and just push down, tip the thing over, repeat the process a couple of times, and time for a new blade. This thing's dull. That'll flush that up real nicely. If you're putting shakes on and you get some laser cut shakes, either from me or from somebody else, I put them on and then let them overlap the edge a little bit. And then once they've dried, I come back in with this chisel blade and cut them back flat. So now we have a tar paper roof. Now, I brought one of my very coveted and much hoarded bottles of polyscale. Brought some grimy black. If you've got plain black, if you've got a dark gray, you can use just darn near any any shade you want. Depends on how weathered you want the roof to look, as to what color. If you're doing this to be rolled roofing, that stuff come in every color of the rainbow. So whatever color your railroad tend to use is fine. It's been a while since I've opened this bottle, so now I'm sitting here just dawning on me. I wish I had a pair of channel locks to open this crazy thing up because it may or may not open. And sometimes you just get lucky.
Want to go back to the roof, skinny side first,
Yes.
thin side?
Yeah, put the skinny side on first, and so when I go to put it on, I put the fat side up, or the wide side, past the peak. So when I put the skinny side on, I slide it up against it and use it as a stop. So then I know that's where it should be height-wise.
Fat side first? No.
Skinny side gets glued on first, but the wide side gets put on as a stop. And then once you've got the skinny side on, then you can, glue the fat side down or the wide side down. Okay, don't want to be roof shaming. Okay, I'm going to go back to my wider brush. And I'm going to come back in here. And if you work from the deck out toward the edges, don't work from the edge in, because you'll end up creating a blob on the back side of it, and you'll get your roof color out there on the trim edge. This works for a lot of different things. I do this when I'm doing stains on guitar tops and things where I don't want to get whatever the color is out onto the edge of the body, but I want to do a kind of a sunburst effect. You'll take your stain and work from the center of the body out. And I don't know if you've noticed, other than when Steele's needed to borrow the green, I work from the lid, not from the bottle. And if you're working with a solvent-based, I'll even go so far as to put a piece of cling wrap over the bottle just so that it doesn't want to evaporate while I'm working. But if I work off the lid, it eliminates a problem that I've seen a lot of modelers do, where they dip it in the brush and they go all the way down to the bottom. I did a make and take doing another speeder, it actually wasn't a speeder shed, just a maintenance of way shed. And that's how the guy painted the whole thing. He dipped the brush in the bottom until it went all the way to the bottom. So he was getting paint clear up here on the ferrule. He would hold it up here and let it stop dripping and then start troweling the paint on. I'm like, dude, you just used enough paint on that one wall to paint the whole thing. He's like, that's not how you're supposed to do it? No. Not at all. Yep. Now, if you start painting this and you look at it and you go, oh, I got a wrinkle in it, don't worry about it. It's tar paper. It wrinkles up. It is not going to come out perfectly flat. It's one of the reasons why I like the Kleenex, is it really has some texture to it. And okay. So I want to double check my edges, make sure I don't have any white showing. And other than some weathering, we have a speeder shed. Now, I did bring, I've got a few colored pencils in here that were leftovers from another clinic. I could show you a little bit of weathering with these, if I've got the right colors. That's a cool gray. It's a slate gray. And this little guy here is a French gray. A lot of times, if you want to do this with colored pencils, I'll get it relatively sharp and I'll work board by board. And I'll, just come in here and you can highlight certain boards. If it's clapboard, I'll take this and get it really sharp like that and turn it so that the angle of the lead is kind of equal to the edge of the clapboard. And then I'll take that really light color and I'll drag it along the edges of those only in the direction of the sunlight from on your layout. So if you've got like track lights and all of them should be pointed in the same direction because the sun's only in one place, you can come in on those two sides of the building, or if it only hits one, you can put highlights on them that way and help give your model a little bit of a boost. With these pencils, they're really forgiving. A little bit of vinegar on a Q-tip if you get something you don't like and you want to take it back off again. These are regular Prismacolor colored pencils. They're not the watercolor type. They're just the regulars. And if you use these, you can actually soak them in a little bit of white vinegar. And if you let it soak for 15 seconds or so, it really softens everything up. But if you let it go for 30 or 45 seconds, it can really get soft, almost to the point you can use it like paint. And you can come back in and add some weathering to add some weathering in on some really fine details. But with this, you can get really fine control. You can get a little streaky if you want to, which is kind of what I did here. You can't see it on the camera too well. I wonder if I hold it up. Nope, just blows it out even worse.
Wait,
Yeah.
that orange button on the top there is a light.
Ooh, okay. There we go. There we go. Look at that. Okay, that's better.
Hey, Duane, could you cut me another 4 inches of rice paper? Can you get it up to those, please?
I've got a couple of scraps here. Will those work?
No, I need.
You need a 4 inch?
I need at least a
Okay.
length of the shed,
Okay.
whenever you get a chance.
Yeah. All right, so let me get up here at a little bit of an angle. You always want to be careful getting up here underneath the eave. Again, that should stay pretty clean. But you can come back in one at a time and you can really get some good definition on here. I want to try to be really light with this. So I don't want too much because this is a pretty dark color. And you can actually overlap them. Like this one already had some of that tan kind of mauve color there. I want to come back in and add a couple of streaks on those. But you can walk around it just a little at a time and add a little bit here and there, create some shadow, it gives you a bit of a peeled paint illusion. Now, typically, again, I would do my staining while everything's still in the flat, but for sake of speed and trying to get everybody done on time, I went ahead and went without it. But, so this is alcohol and India ink. It is the famous model railroad stain. Definitely use India ink. Do not use shoe dye, leather dye. Leather dye is not actually black. It is a very, very, very dark blue. And under some fluorescence, your black stain will look purple. Again, ask me how I know this. Typically, and these are very old bottles, that's why it still says 70%. I buy the 90, 92, 93, whatever the most alcohol I can get, the better. More alcohol means less water means less warping. And it's a little bit more expensive, but you can buy it, at Walmart, you can buy it all kinds of places. Both of these bottles have been with me a long time. It's really hard to see. That one says dark, that one barely, you can read it says light. Each of them has different mixtures. Now, all of my stains, all of the stuff I mix myself, all of the stuff that I buy, so I think, Daryl, you had a bottle of Hunterline driftwood in there. I take a piece of foam core board and a piece of material that's, not quite ½ inch wide, and I cut a piece that's, I think all the ones on mine, I'll have to go back and measure it, but I cut them all so they're uniform. And then I take the piece, hold it in a pair of tweezers, dunk the thing in the stain, shake it a few times to get the water out, to get the stain off of it, and lay it dry on a paper towel. And then I come back in and I glue it down to that foam core board, and I write down manufacturer and what the color is. So it creates what we call a storyboard for woodworking. So most woodworkers don't use wood stain if they're really, I don't want to say true woodworkers because it makes them sound snobbish. If you want it to look like walnut, make it out of walnut. If you want it to look like cherry, make it out of cherry. But not everybody can afford cherry or walnut, so you buy something cheaper and you stain it. So one of the things that we do if we get a request like that is we'll get that, like a bottle of that Minwax right there, and I will cut a small piece of oak, I'll cut a small piece of pine, small piece of poplar, stuff like that, things that I normally would color with a stain or a dye, and I'll do the same thing. Dunk a little chunk in, let it dry, glue it to a board, and what you end up with from a model railroading perspective is you end up with 3 or 4 bottles of varying degrees of darkness of these alcohol and Indian ink stains. You could take the Hunter lines and you can mix them. And, so it's, ½ a cup of this or a ¼ cup of that. Usually I'm doing teaspoons and drops. If you go to mix them, let me tell you a little something that will save you a phone call from your wife's divorce attorney. Don't use Mama's mixing cups and her measuring spoons. Go over to Dollar General and buy your own, because otherwise that lawyer from Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe calls you pretty quick. I am going to go ahead and put a little bit of stain on this guy just to kind of show you what I'm talking about from a working perspective. I'll get you stuff cut here in a second. So I'm gonna go with the light bottle. Now, color will settle. So if you want an even lighter version of the light, don't shake it first. I just shook it up a little bit, just kind of out of a habit. After a while, it's kind of hard to tell where the bottom is or where the stain starts. But one advantage to doing it with it together is you get a chance to treat it all at once. However, again, if you're getting something wet, especially if it isn't a plywood type of a kit, do it while it's still flat so you have a chance to put some weight on it. That way, in case it does warp, and if it's a basswood kit, one of the old kits, it's going to warp on you. All right, now, you'll note that's a pretty hard demarcation line there, but that's really how buildings will end up looking. Is they'll end up with a pretty hard separation between clean and where the weathering starts. So I'll pick a line about 3 or so boards down, and then I'll work my way around the building. Nope, not enough. Stain my sides, want to come back across. And the reason I'm staining my sides, remember that little deal I told you a minute ago? I have intentionally made a boo-boo and how to fix it. I didn't paint the edges of my trim before I put it on. I came and I painted it after I got it on here. So this is that, craftsman learns how to fix his mistakes. The stain will actually tone the edges gray, and it will hide the fact that you didn't paint it first. Okay, so I went 3 boards down on that side, so I need to go 3 boards down on this side. So when I get up to that, bless you. And every once in a while, you're gonna spot something when you start staining it that you didn't see. Like, I don't know where that little hair came from, but it's gone now. All right. Yep, story of my life. Always like to joke, never let your mom comb your hair when she's mad at your dad, but you know. That's right. Yes, it is. Saw him live over at Dallas County Convention Center. I did. The first row not provided with plastic. We were hiding behind the guys in front of us. Had a buddy of mine, he had a pie plate full of Jell-O, and everybody was laughing really loud, and Rusty told me, he said, it hit my hat. He's wearing his cowboy hat, and I thought he may have just hit it, and it kind of bounced off, and he's walking out to the car because he drove, and he reached into his jacket pocket. Yeah, it hit his hat and rolled right down his shoulder and right into the pocket of his jacket. So he reached in his pocket to get his car keys and got a handful of Jell-O. It was hilarious. It was the gag that kept on giving. Okay, now, I've got a little hard demarcation in here along this peak. I can touch that back up with some colored pencils, and we'll do so here in just a minute, because I think I saw a white one in there. Alrighty. I do have a white pencil. It's probably gonna have to dry some first. Maybe not. All right, that blended it out. Needs a little more work, but yeah. One speeder shed. Ready for the layout.
Next month, we'll do the interior.
Yeah, you're on your own for the interior. Any questions? You can strip.
Thank you, Duane.
You bet.
Good job. Very nice.